Tell me about that controversy with the what's going on in the Warrior Cats fandom.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's not just happening, but I watched a video um that went into it and oh my gosh. It's just not what I was expecting. It was like recent drama too. Like it's been in like the past 2 years. I
Seriously?
Yeah, I didn't think that the Warrior Cats fandom was still alive and well, but it absolutely is. it, it's not like how it was in its heyday, but it's still alive and well. And so basically, there's this one do you know like the Warriors fandom like has a lot of like big animators in it?
Yeah, I knew that.
Hmm. Well, one of them uh did like a MAP of two of like there's these two
No.
cats. Yeah. There's these two cats and the one is called Gray Stripe and the other one is Silver Stream, and they're from different clans, but they fall in love. So it's basically Romeo and Juliet. It's a big no-no. Um, so Gray Stripe is canonically a dude, and Silver Stream is canonically a girl. But this animator headcanoned Gray Stripe as a trans man, and
Stop.
oh my god. Or no, excuse me, Silver Stream is a trans man. So it was like a gay relationship, and like Gray Stripe like wasn't judging him and everything. But in the story, like canonically happens in the books, Silverstream gets pregnant and dies giving birth. So
What?
yeah, it's a crazy series, like a kids book series. So everybody was like, "Hey, not to like discredit your like idea or anything, but did you think about this? And like, did you think about how that could like come across in a bad way?"
Hello.
Oh, hey, Steven.
Hey, Steven, how's it going?
We're chit chatting about Warrior Cats drama.
Warrior crap. Warrior cats.
Mm-hmm.
Things are heating up in the Warrior Cats fandom.
Yeah, there is a lot of controversy around this one person. I was just explaining to Eve before we got started.
What's the controversy?
Okay, so quick,
From the top.
we're from the top. There's these two cats, and this is like actually in the story. Um, there's these two cats, Gray Stripe and Silver Stream, and they're from different clans, but they fall in love. Big no no, Romeo and Juliet type thing. Um, and this one animator, because you know how the Warrior Cats fandom has like really good animators.
Yes.
They made an MAP of those two cats, but in their story, they headcanoned Silverstream, the girl cat, as a trans man. And everybody was like, because in the story, like the books, canonically, Silverstream dies giving birth to their kids. And everybody was like, did you think about how this could come across like in a bad way? And then the artist was getting called out for it, obviously. And they were notorious for doing shit like this too, like giving these random headcanons to cats. And it's like, dude, cats? Like is that the hill we're gonna die on? And like trans cats? And
Trans cats.
apparently people were just like going at this person, and everybody who disagreed with them, they called them homophobic and transphobic.
Over
No!
trans cats.
Over trans cats.
No! This is not the way.
It was absolutely ridiculous, but I watched a whole video about it. I mean, that was part of the video. And then I looked into the drama myself, and I watched the MAP myself, and it's horrible.
MAVs. What are we doing?
Ugh, I I don't know. And there was something else. Oh, and then there's something else that artist did. that's why I wanted to tell you so badly, because I was like, oh, I wasn't going to tell you originally because I was
There's
like, this is just
more?
something yeah, I was like, this is just something stupid that like only Warriors Cat fan would find funny. But this person was okay, so this other animator in the community who's been in it and like big in it for years, like a decade now, just recently within the past 2 years got caught on like another website like drawing like feral cat porn. And
Fucking hell.
I know. And everybody was like, hey, this art style looks familiar. And then they figured out it was this animator
No!
spotted. It's this animator spotted Fire 25, and they called them out for it so hard, and then she had to respond and be like, yeah, that was me, like, I'm so sorry.
Can you imagine how funny she
'Cause
would be if be like, that's not me. That's not you.
that's not me.
Nope.
And I didn't even know what that was, so then I had to Google Reddit threads about different types of furry porn.
We're in the rabbit hole
Fur?
now, aren't we?
Oh no.
I got a little too deep because I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, isn't that just furries? No, that's actual animals. Which I didn't think was going to be a big deal in the furry community, but apparently it is a huge no-no in the furry community, which good to know they have some standards. But
The
so they
furry
got called out.
community does have standards, yes.
Yeah, like I'll give them that. I wasn't expecting this whole Reddit thread, but so the artist gets called out, they apologize, and then they've been ghost online ever since. Like, have not posted a single thing, videos. That
Disappeared.
post is disappeared. But the original animator I was talking about, the one that made the MAP of the trans cats, um, was calling out Spotted Fire 25 for it and was like freaking out about it, and but wasn't being clear on what Spotted Fire had done. So this like random miner DMs them and is defending Spotted Fire because they had no idea what was going on. They were like, "Hey, you probably don't have the whole story yet. They haven't made a comment yet. Like, why are you like ripping them to shreds on, you know, like Twitter? I think it was." And then they sent the actual porn to this miner over DM and was
No,
like,
what are
"This,
you doing?
yeah, yeah." And was like, "This is what you're defending." And then everybody like went ham on this artist. They were like, "Dude, you just sent porn to a minor. You could be arrested." And they were like, "Oh my god, I had no idea. I thought they were 21. Like everybody made it seem like they were in their 20s.
Dude.
Like I'm so embarrassed." So they were like exiled. But surprisingly enough, they still make YouTube animatics to this day.
Exiled off Twitter, you mean?
Exiled off everything, but they
Or
still continue to
The
post.
big cancelled.
Like very canceled within the community, and everybody was basically like, "Don't make another Warrior Cats thing." They haven't made another Warrior Cats thing since they got canceled in the Warrior Cats community, but they still post animatics, and people are like, "Bro, we don't forget. We do not forget what you did."
This you?
This you. They did so many other things too. I'll send you the whole thread, but oh my gosh, isn't that insane?
That is just horrible.
Yeah, just not what I was expecting, and a totally random thing to start our episode on, but I had to share.
Hey, I mean, Lorenzi in chat is invested.
it's a it's a good opener.
It really is. Welcome to Haters Without a Cause, everyone.
Yes, welcome back. um, so good to be back. Today we have a special guest with us, Steven. Say hello.
hello, hello.
So we were talking
And
about Avatar, and we said we need to have an expert on board, like one of the best.
Mhm.
And I said, I know a guy.
Yeah. So today we're going to be focusing on Korra, since last episode was all about Avatar, and I think we mentioned coming back to Avatar again at some point in the near future, but moving on to Korra felt best for today.
We're gonna talk about like the rest of the franchise as well, because Steven has read some of the books, and there's a bunch of Avatar stuff coming out in the future, so we can talk
Yes,
about
a
that as
lot.
well.
So, I was gonna say, do we want to just get started on
Yeah.
book one?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
guess to start with, I thought we could all go in a circle and give a blurb on what we think about Korra.
Who wants to get us started?
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go for it.
We'll go bottom to top.
Sounds good.
Korra. Okay, starting from book one, Korra is like the complete opposite of Aang, and the creators did this on purpose. Korra is everything that Aang wasn't. She's this like reckless, selfish, like very like in your face type of avatar, and she wants everyone to know that she's the avatar.
And you gotta deal with it.
You gotta deal with it.
But then she realizes, like, damn, maybe being an avatar is a lot harder than she thought. And we just see her development through each book, with it having some like bumps here and there. Her development like grows to be like this more mature, more experienced avatar who like thinks of others before just rushing in and attacking. She's my queen.
Yeah,
All
definitely.
right.
That's Avatar, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with everything you said. Like, you're right. She's the exact opposite of Aang, very hot-headed, quick to action. But I think obviously at first she has a really hard time mastering airbending because it's just the opposite of her vibe. Like, she's not serene and calm. She just loves violence and acting out. And
She loves
I love her for that. She does, and she's so good at it. But I think it's interesting how by the end of the series, though, she becomes really in tune with her spiritual side, like even with the spirit vines and just the spirit world in general. Like she brings back the airbenders and reunites the spirit world with the physical world. She just becomes a really spiritual avatar as time goes on. And I think that's a really great progression from her original vibe, like Steven was just mentioning.
Oh, I think I worded my question wrong. I wanted to know what you guys think of the show in general, not like Korra the character.
We're here like Korra, ha ha ha. Why don't you go, Steven? What do you think? And then I'll go after you again.
Okay. I really like the show. But something that is like a bit iffy is like the major jump in, I guess, like how the world is, like the modern society. Like now we have cars and mechs and airships and all this. I mean, it makes sense. But it only makes sense if you like see the comics and see like the development of everything that happened after the 100-Year War, of how like each nation is now trading everything that they developed in the war, with airships being the biggest one, I feel like. But it's not bad. But I feel like jumping so modern so quickly might change anything for future avatars. Like it won't be the same.
Yeah.
Because we saw with like Avatar Wan in book 2, how his world was more closer to like Aang's than anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was definitely a very fast progression. And I think, not to jump ahead, but with the new Avatar, like animated series they mentioned with the earthbending Avatar, everybody's freaking out about how it's going to look because it's set in like modern day. And because they progress so fast in Korra's world technologically, everybody's like, what is a modern day Avatar going to look like? Like, are they going to be taking selfies? Is it going to be this kind of thing? Like, because nobody wants that. The whole point of Avatar is to feel, I don't even like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just otherworldly, you know? Like it doesn't feel modern. It feels historical.
It's fantasy.
Yeah. I like that vibe for it more. It makes it feel, I think it fits the vibe of the entire series and like show in general just to stay towards that, but I think they could really do it really right or really wrong.
Wow, I'm glad
Yeah.
we have a nice varied panel here because I am not a fan of The Legend of Korra. Dun dun
Boo.
dun.
So
I
Why?
explain why.
I would go into more detail later, but I hate the setting. I dislike
Mm.
everything about the world building. Republic City
Valid.
was a mistake. Um, I'm not a fan of.
I'll agree with that.
There are characters that I like, but I'm not a fan of all of them. I despise the villains. Um, just the way that
That's
they
interesting.
chose to tell this story. Ooh, I don't like what they did to the original characters.
Hmm.
So we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I see what you mean. I also am not a fan of Republic City. I think it was trying too hard to be like 1920s America out of nowhere. And I just don't like, I understand their whole meaning behind it was like, oh, Zuko and Aang and the other world leaders wanted to create a safe space for everybody and like not just one nation per, like piece of land. I get that, but I don't think it would have become so industrialized like so soon.
That's what
And
I'm saying. Like the Fire Nation during the
mhm,
100-Year War, they were in the middle of an industrial revolution. That's why
mhm,
they had like steam technology and like airships and stuff like that. So the idea
mhm,
that like that could be so widespread throughout the entire world within like less than 100 years, and then
mhm.
we have like cars and radio and airships with before the printing press. Like really?
Yeah, and Lorenzi, my friend Ryan, said the modern setting is a tightrope to walk, but it can end up pretty sick. I think about when we were originally talking about the new Avatar series, and I completely agree with that. Like, it's the same thing in Korra. It was a tightrope to walk, and I think they just didn't do it right. But in general, I just loved Korra, and I loved like her friends and who she was. But there are some definite things that I would change if I could have a voice in it. So I see your point, Eve, but I'm surprised you don't like the villains. I really liked Unalaq, but I didn't love Kuvira.
Ooh,
I think I'm the opposite. Unalaq,
Really?
Unalaq was probably my least favorite.
Really?
I
I
have
thought
to
he
agree.
was the most. Really? Wow, we are a little
I
divided
I guess
today.
when we get to book 2 we can get there, but I guess
Yeah.
let's start with book 1. We have
All
Republic
right.
City, the Equalists,
Amon.
Amon,
Ugh, I
and
hate him on.
our characters.
I think, like, again, not to just be like, oh, I hate him on and give no reason. I do hate him. I think his character was interesting in the fact that he was taking away powers through bloodbending, like not actually just some random almighty person who could take away bending like Aang could. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that that's how they set it up in the first season. Like Aang taking away Fire Lord Ozai's bending at the end of the first series was a huge thing. Like it felt so
It was a
powerful
big
and
deal, yeah.
so yeah, it felt like a big deal. And so I didn't like that out of nowhere, just some random equalist guy was like, hey, I could take away your bending too. I feel like it brought it down a bit. Like it made it feel not as special as it was.
Bending though, was he? He was blood bending.
That's true, but you don't know that until the end.
Well, I take issue with that entire thing. I think Amon had a lot of potential. I think of all the villains, he had the greatest potential as like an idea, like a representation of like the uprising of like non-benders against bender oppression or whatever. But there's just one problem. They didn't show us any benders oppressing non-benders. Like the closest we get is like the triple threat triad, like threatening this lady's shop. But like they're criminals. They were gonna do that anyway. And like I'm gonna say Republic City is very biased towards like non-benders. Like they have cars, they have airships. Benders get relegated to like blue collar jobs, like the lightning generation. Like the richest man in the
Mhm.
city is a non-bender.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah, that's something.
you can't have an allegory for like the civil rights movement or whatever without an allegory for Jim Crow or whatever they were going for. Because if the
Mm-hmm.
Equalists actually had a point, they would be way more interesting to me.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with that. I agree. I don't like, also just like build off that point. I don't like how bending is so, I don't even know the word for it. Like it's so forced in Korra versus like how in Avatar it felt like everybody was realizing these new techniques and it was flowing out of their bodies and they had all these really cool moves. And then in Korra everybody just like pushes it out of their fists and there's no
Yes,
technique and there's no
it's all
fluidity.
just punches and kicks now.
Yes, I hated that about
The
it. Like if
bending is
I
based on
completely
like real life
agree.
martial arts techniques.
Mhm.
They were very inspired. Like the way Toph moved when she
Mhm.
earthbend is different from the way Aang moved.
Yeah. And now everybody who bends the same thing moves the same way and has the same moves, and it's like I liked like Aang's and the like Gang's development because Katara, the way she, I mean, granted she is like a waterbending master, like she's one of the outliers here, but the way she learned and like the movements and the things that she accomplished throughout the series was truly beautiful, and I wish we had something like that in Korra.
Yeah, like when you look at pro bending, you
Mhm.
have a firebender, an earthbender, and a waterbender, and they all move the same way. What is up with that?
Mhm. Yeah, and like the pro, I didn't like pro bending.
Same. Not a fan.
What do you? Yeah, what did you think about it, Steven?
Pro bending, I feel like could have been better than the way they
Hmm.
did it.
I agree. I
I just feel
think
like
they
I
went
don't
about
really
it.
know what the rules are. I feel like if I was more invested, because like Quidditch, they explain to you how it
Hmm.
works.
Yeah, I think I agree. They could have done it in a better way. Like it felt too like wrestling, like WMMA, like whatever the fuck it's called. Like just super acted out. And I know that was the point because it was like over the radio and they had like that announcer, describing everything. But it could have been way cooler. It just felt too aggressive and it like led the way for the rest of like the bending throughout the show. Like it was all just aggressive and fighting and angry. There was no real technique or movement in people, I feel like, except for honestly the airbenders. And but that's just because they were relearning everything.
There was also like the metal bending clan that we'll come back to, I guess, in book
Yeah.
3 and book 4.
Mhm.
What do you
Yeah.
think of bending in general in book one?
Bending in
And
general?
Well, yeah,
in
because we
book
were
1,
talking
yeah.
about like the movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Book 1 again, I definitely just think was too aggressive and there was no passion or soul in it.
Actually, even with Korra's airbending, she was aggressive with it
Mm.
when she first
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, because Amon takes away her waterbending, firebending, and earthbending because she hadn't mastered airbending yet, or even I don't think she had airbended at all yet.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then when he takes all that away, she finally learns airbending, but because she had nothing else to resort to, so it was again angry and aggressive, and that's the total opposite of airbending.
I just hate it like narratively because the whole thing was supposed to be like Korra learning how to airbend through like getting in touch with the spiritual side, but like the way Korra learns airbending has nothing to do with like airbender training or like the spiritual side of bending. Like the plot just kind of hands it to her at a climactic moment. And even when
Hmm.
she's doing it, she's just like punching and kinking like she's been doing before. It's
Yeah,
it's not satisfying. And like
no.
what are we trying to say here? Like did Amon close all of her chi pads except one? Like how does that even work?
I don't know. I think it was just like honestly a badly written way for her to finally master airbending, or not even master, but be able to finally do it.
It's such an easy fix. Like, just have some scenes with her, like,
Mm-hmm.
training with Tenzin and, like, slowly getting better at, like, the airbending gates and what. Well, I guess not the airbending gates because she burned them. But,
Yeah, which that pissed me off.
yeah, man, like, that's a relic. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was really hard for me to like Korra, especially in the beginning.
That's fair. They do. She is introduced in a very aggressive, in your face way, which is literally the exact opposite of Aang, as we keep mentioning. So I think it's harder to like take her all in because you were probably expecting someone similar to Aang.
She came off as more immature to me than any of the kids in the original series, even though she's like older.
That's true.
I will say though that the creators had to, when writing the like book one of Korra, they had to like make a beginning and end because they didn't expect to get a season 2, and that's just because of Nickelodeon.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
fair. I hate when shows feel like they have to rush things for that reason. When I feel like they could have totally built a better world, honestly, and then you know, I don't know the words I'm looking for. Sorry, but also built up Korra's character in a way and her personality in a way that wasn't so aggressive at first.
well, the thing about that is I heard that the network ordered 3 more seasons while they were making book 1. But
Really?
yeah, you would never know though cuz book 1 kind of feels self-contained. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of them feel more cohesive, but I feel
Mm-hmm.
like each one could be its own book too. They all end in
Yeah.
very like the series could end here, and I don't think anyone would really question anything, because book 2
Mm-hmm.
ends with like, oh, we've opened up the spirit portals. Book 3 is like, the Air Nation is alive and well, and Korra's in the wheelchair. Well, I guess that's kind of a
Oh,
cliffhanger.
yeah. That if they ended on season 3, that probably would have pissed me off because I would just want to know what happened to Korra so bad.
Yeah. I talked about the world. Oh, what do we think of like? There's a metal bending cop force, and then like there's a whole job revolving around bending lightning.
I don't like either of those things.
Me too.
Steven, your thoughts?
Yeah. I love seeing it, but I don't like specifically what they're for.
Yeah.
Like the lightning one, I love it because now lightning is a more common thing since the Fire Nation. Oh, actually, I learned in the books that lightning was uncommon because the like royals, like the Fire Lord and stuff, kept any secrets of like how to lightning bend, locked away. So only like
Mm-hmm.
the royalty can learn how to lightning bend. But when Zuko became Fire Lord, he let that the knowledge like more open, so we have lightning benders all around. But I don't like that lightning bending was specifically used as, a steam room type job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about that explanation either, because I thought the original series you had to have a certain personality type to be able to. Doesn't Iroh say like you had to have a
That is
certain
part of
inner
it.
peace to separate the yin and yang to bend lightning?
I mean, I'll be real. I might sound messed up for this, but I kind of liked when it was a not widely known type
Same
of
here.
bending. I
Same
kind of
here, because
liked
it's
that
special.
yeah, I kind of liked that it was special. I don't like that it was kept to the royal family only. I think that could have been Stephen was saying, Zuko spread it out to more people. I think that could have been nice, but I feel like it should have just stayed with firebenders that were really talented.
Something that I really, really like about the original series is that no matter how hard Zuko tried, he couldn't get it because he just doesn't have the personality for it. But he learned how to redirect lightning. Like, it really shows like restraint on the writer's part. It's like this is something very specific that you had to meet specific criteria to achieve. It's not a matter of like looking at a scroll and like, oh, this is how you bend lightning. Whereas like Korra, it's like, well, no, everyone can do it. And I'm okay with lightning bending being like a blue collar job where you can like generate power at the power plant or whatever it is they're doing. But it seems like every firebender that we see is able to bend lightning
Hmm. I agree
or
with
do
that. Like how
something
Mako,
special.
yeah, like how Mako can just do it, and it's like, okay, I agree with you in the way
That's
also
one.
that.
But then there's like many,
There's
and
no
it's like, all right, stop.
Hmm.
there's no build up to fire
Hmm.
to lightning bending like there was in Last Airbender. They can just do
Yeah.
it instantly.
Yeah, when Azula does in Last Airbender, you're like, holy shit. Like, this firebender must
Hmm.
be extremely powerful. And then,
Yeah.
Iroh could do it. Makes sense. He's really strong. Ozai, yeah, okay. But Zuko can't, which I really liked, as I said earlier.
Yeah, and I was going to agree to your point too. I think a lot of that gets explored in Avatar, yet none of that happens in Korra. Like everybody's just able to do everything. Like, and I get they're a little bit older, but they're still teenagers when it first starts. Like they shouldn't be bending masters at that point where they can just do anything that, and I guess like maybe that was their point, like, oh, everything's so much easier to understand now because everybody's in Republic City and things are faster and we have radios so you can teach things faster. But there's a difference between that and still learning and practicing and figuring things out.
I guess while we're on the subject, what do you guys think of Korra being able to bend the elements as a toddler
Mm.
and growing
I
up
think it
and learning
was
it in the compound?
I think it was funny, like seeing like that one scene of her literally when we first meet her and she's like, I'm the Avatar, you got to deal with it. That's funny, but her being able to master it like immediately or having them all immediately, I did not like.
I thought it was cute, but I feel like her learning all the elements, like at the place she grew up, it kind of like undermines the whole concept of the Avatar journey. Steven, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Don't
The
want to
only
be the
reason,
only one talking.
um, that I wish it wasn't like, because when she, moved the elements when she was a kid, she did it with like precision. Um, but her like training in some like camp to like learn the elements made a bit sense, because of what they said of how in book 3, Zaheer and the group tried to kidnap Korra as a child, so they locked her away for like her own good, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't that like good story wise, but they were like trying to, keep her safe.
It felt like a cop out to me.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't like that she was secluded, but neither did she. And she mentions that. Like, I know the whole point was to keep her away from Zaheer and his whole gang, but that just felt like something that they just came up with later to be like an explanation. Be like, oh,
Yeah,
this random bad guy has been hunting you since you were a baby.
let's not act like Zaheer was planned as early as book 1.
Yeah.
Um, I I'm not a I because you said baby Korra bends the elements with precision. I would say that's part of the problem. Like if it was just like unruly, like she has a lot of raw power and she can't really control it yet, I think I'd be more okay with that. But the fact that she bends the elements so well at like age
Hmm.
4, I'm like, what are we doing, guys? And then
Yeah.
learning them at the compound, that makes more sense because the masters, like, they come to you, they train you. But like, uh, I think of like the episode with like Roku's flashback, and he's like traveling around the world, trying to find teachers, and because the Avatar journey is like you're supposed to go out into the world and like empathize with the people you're supposed to be living with. You need to like get
Hmm.
wisdom from all the 4 nations and learn about the bending arts and like how it relates to their culture and stuff like that. It's about becoming a more like enlightened person. And
Yeah.
this
Which
is
is why,
mm-hmm.
no, no. I was going to say that's why Korra is so like hot headed in the beginning, because she didn't have any experience with anyone other than
She's very
Yeah.
the master.
sheltered. Yeah.
And I know that was probably the point. Like, they wanted her to, like, come across as sheltered and like show what somebody who didn't travel the world to learn bending was like. But I didn't like that. I just don't think they had to do that. I feel like we could have understood that for ourselves. Like, oh, Korra was homeschooled, so she's a little bit of a weirdo and socially awkward. We get it. Like, that's a trope as old as time. I
I
would have
think they
loved
wanted
to
to
see,
skip to the end of the Avatar journey.
yeah, like way too fast. But I guess again, it makes sense, like how Steven mentioned and Lorenzi mentioned in the chat, like that they didn't know if they were gonna get a season two, so maybe they just wanted to show her having it all already, just in case they didn't get any further. But I feel like it could have been like she was really good at waterbending because that was, you know, her original element. But
Her
then she was
native.
like really good at firebending, and then starting to learn earth and air, or like starting to learn fire and air, like was still a beginner at those two. Like she didn't need to master all three and then just get to airbending.
Yeah. I think my grievance is more with like, because people will defend us and say like, well, you'll just have a retrend of Last Airbender if we do the Avatar journey. But it's like, no, that was good. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
Avatar wasn't just about going around learning the elements. It was like there were side stories on top of that. You know, we could have had
Mm-hmm.
those iconic like bending lessons and you know, stuff was happening. It wasn't just Aang learning the elements. Like book two, we had that whole side story about like bossing Say and Appa being captured.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you were to describe book two to
Oh,
someone, you wouldn't just say it's the one where Aang learns earthbending. Like no, there's more to it
yeah.
than that. He had to like learn to think like an earthbender because book two really tested Aang and his pacifist nature and his tendency to like run away from everything. I would say it really hardened him.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, and I agree with that. Like it's not, and in Korra that kind of happens too. Like I feel like in season four, like it's not just all about Korra getting back into the Avatar, but it's also the side story of Kuvira and like everything that's going on with Bolin and the like Toph's Sulin's family, like all that stuff. I thought that was interesting, and it like argues your point. Like it wouldn't just be all about her learning the elements; it would be the journey of meeting new people and their side stories because you're introduced to new characters.
Yeah, and she can go to the. I'm wondering how does Korra pick up firebending so easily when it's her natural opposite?
Yeah, and I know their whole point was airbending was hard for her because she was so hot-headed and fiery and like wasn't spiritual and wasn't able to like be patient and calm down, but fire shouldn't have been that easy for her. That's why I mentioned like it would have been cool to see her master water and master like earth and then be like a little shaky still with fire when she's learning air as well with Tenzin.
Yeah, I can picture her picking it up more quickly because she has the personality, but she kind of takes to it like water to a duck, you know what I mean? Like, I
Hmm.
would say fire
Mhm.
is her most used. Like, she's very
Yeah.
proficient at it.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's all very rushed, and I get again that it's because they weren't sure if they were going to get any further, but they could have done it in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So,
about,
do you want to?
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to mention, do you want to talk about Amon a bit more? Because I know we were going to get into the villains because you said you didn't really love them, or did you have any other ideas, or Steven?
We could jump into Amon.
We can jump into Amon, yeah. I guess I was going to talk about the metal bending police some more, but I think
Oh,
we've
I would,
already said
yeah.
that.
I mean, I just think again, yeah, like they didn't need to become a police task force. They easily just could have become like what Sue made them, like just
A
a
clan.
yes, a clan of metal benders and like a artistic and beautiful society who were experimenting and learning new things.
Guys, brace yourselves. I'm going to say something positive about The Legend of Korra. I
Uh-oh.
I love Zaofu. I love the Metal Clan, but we can get
Yeah,
Mm,
there.
yeah. It rocks.
Yeah, like metal bending again, very specialized. It was like Toph was the only person who could discover it. You know what I mean? Because she had the power
Mhm.
set. Um, I can buy that she could teach it to her daughters.
Mhm.
I can suspend my disbelief that far, but like to the point where there's an entire police force of metal benders, that's where you lose me. I'm like, nah, come on.
Especially with how hard it was for Toph to learn, especially
Yeah.
because she was just a crazy good earthbender, like the best of their time. Of course, it makes sense that she would invent and master metal bending, and then, like you said, her kids would because she could be teaching them from a young age. But we have all these random people learning it too. I mean, it does make Zaofu, so I guess that's a good thing. But other than that, I just feel like the police task force makes it feel a bit like I don't even know the word I'm looking for. Just like a joke. Like it's made into a joke. Like it's so easy to master now. Like everything is apparently in Korra.
The same thing with chi blocking.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like chi blocking was cool because Ty Lee was the only one who could do it. It made her very dangerous. Like
Mm-hmm.
of the people in the Zula's gang, like Ty Lee can't bend, and she's still really
Mm-hmm.
scary to deal with. But now a lot of people can chi block. Um, the glove I'm okay with because it's just a shock glove. But being
Mm-hmm.
able to teach people, well, okay, Ty Lee did teach the Kyoshi warriors, and I guess they could have taught people. But again, the
Yeah.
idea that it's so widespread that there are this many people who know like these pressure points and stuff like that. That's where I'm like,
Speaking of,
okay.
yeah, but speaking of, where are the Kyoshi warriors? What
Good
happened?
question.
God,
Did they die out?
huh?
Like,
I didn't even
where are
realize
they?
they were here.
I
Really?
thought they would at least show up in like book 3 because they went to Ba Sing Se, you know?
I know.
But the Dai Li's still around.
Yeah, they kept
Yeah,
the Dai Li,
exactly.
but not the Kyoshi
Yeah.
warriors. I love that.
Uh, that's misogyny. I don't know how or why, but it is.
I know how or why. We didn't get any word on like where Suki, what even happened to her.
I
It's a
know.
That's true.
disrespect. It's a disrespect to
Because
that character.
she was a big part of the Avatar
She was
series. Like
part
it's
of
not
Team
like
Avatar.
she was like it's not like she if she had just been introduced when they were with the Kyoshi warriors and they were like on Kyoshi Island just meeting them for the first time and that was it and that's all
Yeah,
we got
and
of
she was a
Suki,
one-off.
I would yeah, I would understand. But she literally comes back in the end and joins Team Avatar and helps them defeat the Fire
She took
Lord.
out the warships. That
Yeah.
was her. That
I,
wasn't all
where
her, but she was a huge part.
where are the Kyoshi warriors? Uh, we I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know. Like, there's no word on what happened to Suki or even Azula and Azula's angels.
Yeah, I didn't love that because they bring up everybody else. Like obviously Katara's still alive, and then they mention Sokka's dead, and Aang, Toph's still alive. But where the hell is Suki? And what happened with him or her and Sokka?
And Sokka, yeah. You just need one throwaway line. Just be like, yeah, my brother
Mm-hmm.
and Suki, they're both dead. That's it. That's all you
Yeah,
need.
yeah. My brother and his wife Suki died,
You know, where's
and
her
then
statue?
yeah, and then everybody would have been like, "Oh, yep, makes sense." Ah. Also, not to be that guy, because I'm so happy that Katara is in the series and now she's Grand. Freaking amazing. Love that.
Adorable.
Adorable. Also, we have to get into Tenzin and their whole family at some point because I absolutely adore them. But,
Mm-hmm.
but, like, how is Katara still alive and Toph? Like, Toph, I guess, makes a little more sense because she was younger um, than everybody else in the gang. Technically, her and Aang were the same age, but he was 112, so I don't really count that. But but like, how is Katara still alive? But everybody else is dead. Sokka was older than her. Like,
Well, she is very, very old.
yeah, yeah, she's old as crap, but she's still like able to teach waterbending and heal people, which just feels unrealistic if she's like 100 years old.
Um,
Hmm.
I'll say healing I'm okay with. but teaching people waterbending, that's I'm like, okay, you might be a little too old for that.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't actually teach anyone waterbending in the series, does she?
I thought she taught Korra. We don't see it, but
Oh,
I think
yeah,
it's
yeah,
implied,
that's
right?
true.
Maybe she
Yeah,
like
she says she
instructs.
learned from Katara.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just because even if she had learned from Katara while growing up, Katara was what, still in her 90s? That's a little unrealistic to me because I thought only the avatars could really live like that old and still be so full of like energy and life.
Well,
There's
hang on.
Boomy.
Oh, that's
Korra.
true. But he
Wait,
was a
who?
master earthbender. Oh, wait.
Oh,
That's a good
Boomy.
point. Because Katara was a master waterbender.
Masters live longer. Is that what?
That was Steven's point, yeah, because Boomy was alive till he was what, also 112?
Yeah,
Well,
Boomy was probably the oldest.
he was the
Yeah.
oldest like living person who wasn't frozen, I guess. Or what about Guru
Yeah.
Patik? People say
Oh,
he had to have been
Oh.
waiting at the West Eastern Air Temple for a really long time.
Yeah, especially since he knew 𝐒𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿.
That's at least
I mean,
100 years.
yeah. And I mean, that makes. But wasn't their whole thing was that he didn't eat much and he was just like living spiritually, like that. Like the comparison to how a lot of Buddhists they think live for years and years because they just like live off spirituality or something.
He was living off onion and banana juice and spirituality.
Yeah,
Can you
God,
imagine, like,
that's
you just
the
get your sustenance from the stars or whatever?
this is a
that's the
bit.
secret.
It's a bit spoilers for the Kyoshi books,
Mhm.
but they do mention how Kyoshi was able to live to like 200 some plus years.
Oh,
Um,
tell us.
Please.
it's because she learned from this old earthbender who was I don't even remember how old he was, but he had a way of like using earthbending to like rebuild his bones to like keep them in place.
What?
Oh, maybe that's what
So,
Boomy did.
I can believe that.
so I'm guessing with like enough practice in your certain element, you could learn to live longer by just keeping your body intact.
That
Does
makes
that mean you
sense.
can earthbend bones? That's
Yes.
scary.
Do you think Katara was like bloodbending herself to keep herself alive
She was
longer?
like cleaning all the bad tisms out of her body fluids, I guess.
And you never get sick that often when you're old. It's probably way easier to survive.
Well, I guess I'm confused about what the criticism is with Katara being alive, because Korra takes place 70 years after the original series, and she was like, what, 14 in that?
Yeah, I think by the end she was 16, right?
Something.
Maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
we'll
don't.
say 15, 16.
My point wasn't criticism. I love that she's alive in the series because I'm so glad we get to see at least one of them. Besides Toph, but I guess I was just more confused onto how it was happening.
And how she survived that long?
Yeah, and because again, like Toph made sense to me, and like to Steven's point, like maybe Toph was rebuilding her bones. You don't know, but
If that's part of the canon, I guess so.
and and Toph was younger than everybody else, so that made sense to me. But I guess Katara was a master, and maybe she was able to take care of herself and heal herself very easily. So maybe
Hmm.
that just like extended her life.
Eating good over at the Sand Water Tribe.
Oh yeah.
Nice and healthy.
Do they ever mention where like they raised their kids?
Who? Aang and Katara?
No.
Yeah, Aang and Katara.
I assume it was Air Temple Island.
But I thought
In the
in
public city.
Oh, we can't know for sure, can we?
no, and because I think when Bumi, Kaya, and Tenzin all go on that like little trip, like vacation, and then they're looking for Iki when she runs away. I think they mentioned that like Tenzin used to go on these like air temple trips with like Aang, and they were like, "Oh, you always got to go to the air temples with Dad," and like made it a whole thing. So I was like, maybe they weren't raised in the air temple.
But Air Temple Island is like that little place near Republic City, right? that's not an air
But they
temple per
built
se.
that. But they built that later. Because I think Tenzin helped him build that, right?
Oh, you're
I,
right. And like, would Aang have been able to build that before he had children? I guess that's the other question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess it had to be
my
either Republic City or the Southern Water Tribe.
yeah, my guess would be Republic City. Maybe after Aang died, she moved back to the Southern Water Tribe.
That's what I assumed.
That, yeah, makes more
She
sense.
retired.
Yeah, and the kids were all grown.
Because when they said, oh, Dad took you to all the air temples, I assumed they were talking about like north, south, east, west, the four that we saw in the original series.
Plus, I think it would be unrealistic for them to live in the air temples in general, because it would just be the two of them? Like
Yeah,
just raising their kids all alone? Like, I don't think they would do that. I feel like they would stay with Sokka and Toph in Republic City.
and they don't really, because when they go to Air Temple Island to come visit, they don't really seem familiar with it, like as a home, if you get what I
Yeah,
mean.
I do, yeah.
There was a line of like, the place I grew up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think Republic City makes the most sense.
Agreed.
Agreed.
So, Amon.
Again.
I think I've said my piece on Amon.
Yeah, I don't love Amon. I like the story of him growing up with his brother and the whole bloodbending issue. But also I don't know if I like that, because how is these just like random bloodbenders, like, or this random bloodbender
Uh,
have kids and then was able to pass along this incredible skill to his two
Fucking
kids?
psychic bloodbending with no motion and no full
Uh,
moon.
With no move.
where did he even come from? I thought Hama was the only one.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. I hate it.
Yeah. But it was an interesting storyline, I'll give them that. Very interesting backstory that he easily could have had a boring ass backstory.
If I think they want Amon to they want to paint him as like he had a point but he went too far, but it's like he didn't though. He didn't care about equality. He just wanted to get back at Benders cuz his daddy was abusive. And then like I said earlier, we haven't been shown any like a systemic oppression with Benders and non-Benders.
Yeah.
Like that scene with Toph in book 4, I really hate it. Because it relies on you not having seen the rest of the show, where she goes like, "Oh, what did Amon want? Equality for all." It's like, no, he didn't. They're
Mm-hmm.
just hoping you forget that.
Everyone's equal if no one's a bender.
Yeah, but I don't like that. Like, they didn't have an issue with that really in the first series. Like, I think it was brought up a little bit, like when they would be like, "Oh, we don't have our bending to protect us. Like, we don't have bending to protect us." But like, nobody was like, "Oh, I wish I was a bender, and it's so unfair that half of us aren't." You know?
There's something there. There's something there, cause
In the comics, they mentioned that, but I don't know in the show.
but Toph would make fun of Sokka for not having bending, and then Sokka himself felt insecure about not having bending. That's the whole
That's a
reason he
good
wanted to
point.
trade with the Sword Master. It's like, so you have
That's true.
some
Yeah.
setup there. If that like evolves over 70 years to be like, oh, you know what? There was 100-year war caused by benders. If anything, it should have been the other way around.
Yeah. I know what you mean. That's a good point. I didn't think about Sokka's like inner conflict that he has in the first series, and it's definitely true. It's very apparent. Like, he mentions it multiple times. I totally forgot about that. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, even though Sokka was like MVP of that group, low key, he was insecure about not having bending. So if
Mm-hmm.
there's him, there's gotta be more.
Yeah, that definitely didn't get brought up as much until season 3 of Avatar, though, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
that's when they're in the Fire Nation, and that's when he finds his master.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he gets his space sword.
Yeah. And I think that was a good thing for him. Like, I mean, not that we're talking about Avatar, but I liked that they gave him a master too, and then he was able to have his own little thing.
Yeah, Avatar is
As
really
if,
good, but that was less
yeah,
like
as if he didn't freaking invent or figure out how to make air balloons actually work.
hot air balloons, submarines, like the
Like this,
invasion plan.
that that feels a little unrealistic to me. I'll be real, but they made that dude a genius in that regard.
The submarines or the invasion plan?
The submarines. Like, how did he go from just helping someone perfect a design to coming up with a revolutionary one by himself?
Yeah, all right. Conversation to be had there.
Yeah, yeah. We'll put a pin in that until we talk about Avatar again.
But Steven, what do you think about Amon?
I really like his backstory. I liked the fear he caused whenever he was on screen. But once his
Oh
like
yeah.
reveal happens, it was like, oh, he was just another waterbender with daddy issues.
Can we
Completely
also talk
agree.
about Yeah, can
I
we
love
also
his
talk about
presence.
though how like scared Korra was of him, but she was apparently so fearless and like in your face and whatever. And I don't know if it's maybe just because it was her first time in Republic City and being exposed to somebody like that. But like, why was she suddenly so afraid? Like, she was so afraid of every single person she fought, which I feel like took away from her whole badass fighter demeanor.
Well, I think I can actually answer that, and I'll say something positive about book one, because this is part of why I feel like this story had so much potential. Because like Korra's entire identity up to this point revolves around being the Avatar. Um, she puts huge stake in. That's a huge part of who she is, and so far at her point of maturity, that comes down to like being able to bend the elements. So Amon threatens that because if he takes that away, it's like, what is she? She's not the Avatar anymore at that point. Um, that's why I really like Amon's presence. I love how the very idea of him like terrifies Korra. But he turns out to be a liar. So much for that. It's the potential. I feel like we could have had a really good story there. Amon actually does end up taking away her bending, except air. And I thought that could have been a really good place for book one to end and book two to begin. For, Korra having to relearn what it means to be the Avatar without having her bending and sort of come to terms with like that's a big change in her life. But nope. The plot hands her airbending, gives her back all her other bending, and the avatar state because why not? Uh,
And energy bending.
and energy bending. Yeah, she just gets handed everything, which is why I hate the book one finale.
Yeah, I never thought about your point of her having to relearn all that. Could have been really interesting and taught her more discipline within those, different types of bending. But it
It
was kind of a cop out. This that she could get it and give it all back through blood bending.
it makes me upset because it's like when you take away earth, fire, and water, and those are bending types that she picked up because they're very physical. It's like, well, now she has to learn the spiritual side of bending, and she can learn air bending that way, and she can adjust with having to only know air bending for a while. You could give her the other three bending types later, like after she learned her lesson, but we don't even get to like sit on that idea.
Yeah, it's very fast paced, but again, I guess that does make sense if they weren't thinking they were going to get another series.
It was
But
supposed to be a mini series.
yeah, I don't
Or
know.
I don't
also,
even
couldn't
go on.
I was going to say, couldn't this is like about blood bending specifically, I guess. Couldn't Katara return people's bending? Why was it done with energy bending?
That's my
Yeah.
other problem. Because
It was just
how does
blocked with
energy bending heal a physical block? Because that's what Amon was doing. He was physically closing the chi pads with blood bending. So if
Yeah.
anything, they should have waited for a full moon and then Katara like finds a way to unseal those blocks. But
But
fucking Force
sorry, go ahead.
Ghost Aang appears and Spirit bends it away. How?
But doesn't Katara like hate bloodbending? Maybe she hasn't done it since because she gets it outlawed.
She
that
does,
is
but
true.
if it's to help the Avatar, you know, I think we can make an exception.
That's fair.
I don't even know
Oh.
if I like this was supposed to be a mini series explanation because they ended it with Amon and his brother fucking exploding themselves. If they had the balls to end it with Korra losing her bending, all of them except airbending, and she has to like learn how to be the Avatar going forward without those things, I would have praised this show to high heaven. Especially if that's where it ended. Man.
Yeah. I I absolutely hated that they blew themselves up. Well, or at least his brother blew the both of them up. I was kind of ready for their little arc of being brothers and, regaining their lives and making it something outside of their father's bloodbending expectations, and nope. Boom.
Really? I thought that was a satisfying end to both of them.
Yeah, I agree. They finally both were getting peace and were gonna re-strengthen their bond, and then he was like, "No, my brother's gonna do evil again. I must kill both of us." Like, no, he was done with that.
Oh, I thought no, I was talking about the fact that they exploded themselves. I thought that was a satisfying end. Cuz
I disagree.
I was saying it's cuz like um I always saw it as more as like we've both done like irreversible damage to like the world and our own reputation. So I think it was
That's
a mutual understanding what was going on cuz I
I
think
don't though, because the brother had his back turned and he was ready
I,
to start a new life.
yeah,
I
but
think he
Amon is.
knows.
I think he knew. Wasn't there like tears coming down his face as he was saying like we get to start all over, something like that. I might be remembering it
Yeah.
wrong.
I thought it was the other brother crying.
Tarlock?
Yeah. I thought Tarlock was crying and was like, "Yep, we're gonna start a new life," and then killed both of them. Whereas,
My cement.
I
Of mice
don't
and men.
know.
Tell me about the rabbits,
I think
Tarlock.
it would have been nice for them to have like an actual like redemption kind of arc all on their own.
I guess it could go either
That,
way, but I don't know if it's what we got was necessarily worse.
Mhm.
it would have been nice to see them reappear in a later season, but this
Yeah.
time
For sure.
helping Korra.
Yeah, like they could have even helped in the second season when she was fighting Unalaq.
Unalaq, yeah.
That could have been really helpful. I mean, maybe they wouldn't use bloodbending, but they could probably use waterbending to help.
Yeah, they were good waterbenders.
They were, yeah, I mean, they had to have been if they were experienced bloodbenders too. I don't know.
Um,
I see your guys' point, but I I wish they hadn't done that.
I do like that in Korra they're not afraid to kill off the villain, which is my main problem with The Last Airbender.
are you saying
Mm.
they should have killed Ozai?
They should have killed Ozai, but instead they handed Aang the answer in the final episode.
You don't like that?
Yeah,
Man,
I
Steve
don't
and
know,
I,
because
we're
with the
on the
sea
same
turtle,
page.
with the
What?
with the lion turtle, there was no like build up. We saw him like in a book and like in the library episode, but there was no like, oh, he just appears after Aang was sleepwalking, gave Aang the answer, and now Aang um doesn't have to go against his morals.
Oh, this
Hmm.
is gonna be interesting.
I don't know. I didn't want Aang to have to go against his morals. He was actively fighting that the entire series, especially in the days leading up to fighting Ozai, and he was calling upon past avatars, and they were like, "Bro, you're just gonna have to kill him," and he was like, "No, no, no, no," and was very adamant about it. And then he got what he wanted. He figured it out.
Nepotism.
Did he figure it out though? It was
Yeah,
extremely
the
lucky he
lion
happened to be on a
turtle.
lion turtle, and he had the perfect way for him to dispose of Ozai without killing him.
Well, it was also pretty lucky that he froze himself inside an iceberg for 100 years and came out pretty much still intact and totally
Exactly
fine.
100 years later.
Exactly.
I have an idea for how they could have written it so that Ozai gets killed and Aang doesn't have to sacrifice his morals. You guys ready?
Yeah.
So instead of all the bullshit with the lion turtle, have Aang fight Ozai, and at this point he's accepted that he has to kill him. Ozai fires lightning at him. Aang redirects it. Ozai tries to redirect it back, but the lightning passes through his heart and he dies.
I see that, but I feel like Aang still would have blamed himself for that.
I agree.
I think that's a better story because
But
technically
that would have
Ozai.
haunted him.
Well, hang on. Technically, Ozai is culpable, and we have a payoff to Iroh saying, "Don't let the lightning pass through your heart." And then Aang can beat himself over that. Beat himself up over that because he thinks that he's responsible, and you can give him an arc with him learning to forgive himself and learning that even if that doing the right thing doesn't always feel nice and fuzzy, and that
I mean,
yeah, I think that could have been great.
in the comics, right after that, Aang was okay with killing Zuko.
That's true. And in the original series, let's not sugarcoat this. Aang kills plenty of people.
But going back to your point of Aang's totally fine with killing Zuko, doesn't he eventually get him to get rid of that pact that they make? Like, isn't he like, I really don't think I can do that?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember. I just remember Aang saying like, "Okay, I'll
I don't
kill you
remember the
if it comes
details.
to it."
And he gets
I
close to
can
doing
remember,
it too.
but I remember seeing a post about it, and it was like him originally agreeing to it, and then later on, I think it was maybe after the almost attempt where he was like, I can't do that. Can we get rid of this pact? And Zuko was like, yeah, okay.
I don't remember the details, but Zuko basically tells him like, if I become like my father, I want you to kill me. And then Aang's like, no, Zuko, you're my best bud. And then he's like,
No,
please,
Zuko, don't kill yourself. You're
you're
so
so
sexy.
sexy. Don't make me kill you. You're so sexy. And then Zuko's like, no, you're the only one I trust with this. And then he's like, oh, fine, okay. And then over time, Zuko starts showing. I'm giving like the bare synopsis because I don't remember details. Um, Zuko starts showing signs of being like his dad, kind of, sort of, maybe. And then Aang is like, all right, well, I made a promise, so I'm gonna have to kill you now. He goes into the Avatar state with like the floating elemental ball, like the same thing he was doing when he was fighting Ozai, and he comes very close to killing him. And I think something stops him. I think either Katara or Zuko begging for his life or whatever. And then after that is when they decide like we need to ditch this pact. Just be a good Fire Lord, okay? I trust you.
I don't know. I see, but the fact that it still ends where he's like, no, he still couldn't go through with it. In the end, he still couldn't go through with it. Not with his father, not with Zuko.
I can agree that Aang doesn't want to like consciously take someone's life, but accidentally or not, he takes a lot of people's lives in the original series, and he doesn't really feel anything about it. Like I don't know, the idea that like Aang is 100% against killing makes sense to me, but it comes out of nowhere in book 3.
Are you like saying like the time when they were at the Northern Water Tribe and he went into the Avatar state and then killed all those people?
I'm not even just talking about that, but that's a huge example. I
But
Mhm.
wouldn't
I
blame Aang 100% for that anyway, because that was like the ocean spirit.
that's what I was gonna say. I feel like that wasn't really Aang. It was more the ocean spirit, and it was literally like the life or death of the world. Like the entire world was at stake. And
Sure.
I feel like when he's in the avatar state, he's not really thinking as much. He's just reacting emotionally. And like you said, it was definitely more the like ocean spirit that overtook him in that moment. Like what other murder examples are you mentioning?
Just like in fights where he blows people with his airbending into the water, freezing water, or earthbend the buzzard out of the sky. Not earthbend. He killed a buzzard in the desert. That's an example a lot of people bring up. Um, I know these seem like small examples because they're just like nameless baddies, but
But I was gonna say because cartoon logic, the people he probably pushed into the water are still alive.
there's no way. There's no
That's
way. There's no
I mean,
way. Alive, but not
logically
well.
logically no, but in cartoons, like there's so many people that should be dead. We mentioned this in the last episode how there should be a ton of firebenders with as many scars as Zuko. Like
That's true.
they should, yeah. Do you know how many like and like we were mentioning it last time? Oh, every time a firebender bursts out fire, somehow nobody gets hurt. Somehow everybody's able to brush it off or move past it. Like they should be dead.
My point though is more whether or not they're dead, Aang should feel bad about it.
That's fair.
If there were some moments throughout the series just sprinkled throughout, be like, man, I really killed a lot of people, and like Katara or Sokka reassures him, or just like, we all do what we have to do during the war or whatever. And then
Hmm.
Sozin's comment where he's like, no, this is one step too far. I can't, go around killing people I don't like. I've done enough of that already. Then we have a story there.
Yeah,
Or
I
even
don't
just a
know. I
flashback
just
where like the monks are teaching him like all life is sacred.
yeah, I guess I just liked the ending, but I see your guys's like um apprehension, I guess.
Don't get me wrong, I love the moral dilemma. Um,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love that Aang contacts the other avatars, and he even contacts another airbending avatar for like a confirmation bias, and even she gives him an answer that she doesn't want to hear. I just don't like how they
Queen.
chose to resolve it.
Mhm. That's fair.
Ozai could have ended himself like the lava bender in book 3 of Korra.
Oh, where he
Instead of
dropped the
being
Mm.
mountain on
instead of
himself.
being captured by instead of getting captured by Aang, that he would rather try to take them both out at the same time.
Mhm.
You know what? I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I think I would be too.
The reason why I like my example the most is because like it's definitely Ozai killing himself, but still in a way where Aang would feel bad slash haunted about it. That can inform his portrayal in Legend of Korra. Maybe he's more okay with doing what's right for the world above his own personal morals. Because I think that's what
Mhm.
Yang Chen says to him. It's like, it's great that you have these ideas as an airbender and whatnot, but like, your duty as the avatar comes first, that sort of thing. And maybe as he gets older, he starts to adapt that mindset.
Mhm.
I don't think so, just because of energy bending. It's like, oh,
But
sorry, you're doing
energy
too much
bending
damage. I
ruins
take
that
away
whole
your
thing.
bending.
That's my issue. Because now he can
Eh,
just disable people without killing them.
And energy bending isn't specific. It's like,
It's
okay, you can
really
take away
not.
bending, give bending, but there's the like energy beam bending that Korra did in book 4, which I don't
Don't they call that
entirely
spirit
get.
bending?
Was that spirit bending? It was with the giant robot with the like
The
laser
laser.
arm.
Yeah. I think they call it spirit bending, but I have no idea how any of it works. And then, like, book two, there's the idea that, like, not just the avatar, any waterbender can purify or corrupt a spirit with water bending. I'm like, how?
Yeah, that's out of nowhere too.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
But I guess that's a good segue to book 2.
Yeah.
I got a lot of problems with book 2. A lot of them.
A lot of beef with it.
Yeah.
All right, let's hear it. Why?
um First of all, I hate everything to do with spirits. Um Spirits
The
in the
dark
original
spirit.
series. Yeah. In the original series they were like an extension of nature almost. They were all based on things you can find in nature. You had animals, you had plants, and they would take on monstrous appearances if they were angry. And they would become angry if you mess with nature in the physical world. But
Mm-hmm.
the spirits in Korra, they look like they're just generic like Ghibli creatures. They almost look like Pokemon. And you just have generic like good spirits and bad spirits. I feel like in the original series they were more like neutral because that's what nature is. It can be kind to you or cruel to you, but like you just have very unambiguously good and evil spirits, and then like dark spirits are just like the same design over, except they're just like dark blue slash purple blobs with like evil yellow eyes. It just seemed very lazy to me. Like I miss like Hey Bai and Wan Shi
King.
Tong. Well, I guess we see
King.
Wan Shi Tong in Legend of
Yeah,
Korra.
King.
And the fucking portals. I hate everything about the damn portals. Um the spirit world was supposed to be like a separate plane from like the physical world that only the avatar can enter through meditation. So my question is like what good is the avatar being the bridge between the two worlds when there are now literal bridges between the two worlds that like anyone can walk in and out of? It's just a separate physical world now. What the hell?
That's true.
There were
Mm,
rumors in the original series that Iroh was able to enter the spirit world because he found Nirvana or whatever. Well, it turns out he was just a huge pussy because there were a portal he could just walk into. Are you kidding me?
yeah, but I guess. But then when you think about it, like most people were kind of turned off by the spirit world. Like they were pretty pissed that Republic City was like being almost invaded, like with spirit vines and like spirits. Like people were pretty against it. I feel like nobody was really going in there in their spare time. I mean, maybe a select group, but I feel like it was
And never
mainly
came
like what?
back. Oh no, I was saying how they went in but never came back.
I feel like it was mainly like the Avatar and like her select group around her, like her closest friends that were most interested in going into the spirit world. And then obviously Kuvira, who just wanted to use like spirit vines as power, but she didn't care about the spirit world. Like, I don't know. I feel like it was more uh I don't even know what I'm trying to say, sorry. It was just more like just there, but people didn't really care about it. They were actually actively kind of pissed about it.
I also have no idea what drove Korra's decision to leave the portals open anyway, considering it just seemed to create nothing but problems.
Well, it brought back the Earth airbenders.
I have problems with that too. That's book 3. uh,
Yeah. I
this
mean,
is so funny to me. It's like, oh, it caused this other thing to happen. It's like, no, I hate that too.
I see why you hate that. It is again kind of a cop out and a very like not well fleshed out explanation as to why the airbenders were back. But then when you really think about it, how the hell else were they gonna bring the airbenders back? Like
The long and
all of
slow way.
Tenzin's kids.
Generations of incest.
I was just gonna say Tenzin's kids would have had to have a shit ton of kids themselves to even slightly bring back that population. And they would have to like have, kids with air acolytes, which isn't even a guarantee that all the kids will
It
be.
was a long and slow. It was supposed to be a long and slow process because the air nomad genocide, like this was a scar left on the world by the Fire Nation, and now the Air Nation has to like slowly pick itself up. It's going to take like many generations and many people. And I liked that. It was up to Aang
You
and
liked the
his,
suffering.
yeah, and now it's just like, nope, airbenders everywhere. Cool. Fuck you.
I think I think they could have been more selective about it. It was very like the most random people ever just gained airbending. Like Zaheer made sense to me. That was a really good storyline. And without the airbenders becoming like coming back, that whole Zaheer storyline wouldn't have happened. And I think arguably he was the best villain in the series.
I agree.
Oh my.
Uh,
Well, we could discuss book 3 later, but
You don't like Zaheer? Just really quick.
no. Sorry.
No.
Oh Christ. So what do you guys think of this book 2, Spirits?
Well, I all right. So I liked the majority of it, honestly. I liked the whole going into depth about Raava, and I liked God, what's Vaatu. I
Vaatu.
like how Unalaq and Vaatu kind of fuse, and I love learning about Avatar Wan's like storyline and where everything came from. I thought that was really great.
What about the Civil War arc in the beginning?
Don't love that. I don't love the water tribes being pinned against each other. I get why. And then out of nowhere, suddenly Korra's dad was supposed to be the leader of the northern tribe. I think that was bullshit. Like that was just like not like
It looks
relevant
like the
at all to
show,
the story.
it looked like the writers agreed with you because they just forgot about it like halfway.
Yeah. And I think it was just to like, cause a further rift between him and Unalaq. But like Tarlok was just chilling, and then suddenly they're like, "Yeah, you should have been the leader, and now you're going to be the leader of the Southern Winter Tribe." Didn't love that, but and the Civil War, I think, was just totally pointless. I think they had enough to go off of.
Steven.
honestly, I don't even remember the Civil War happening. The only thing I remember of book 2 that I
Same.
liked was Avatar Wan and his story. Everything else I blocked out.
Mhm.
I guess
Giant
I
Are
spirit
you
war.
I guess I
dead
blocked them out
ass?
for different reasons.
Mm. I liked it. I don't know. I think it was a good one. I think it was better than book 1.
Also, Unalaq was what Korra's uncle, but he didn't show any like family like love or anything. I don't know. There was no connection. It felt like.
He didn't feel like a family member. He just felt like some guy.
Yeah.
I think that was the point, though. Like the point was that he did just feel like some guy because she barely knew them, and now he was turning against her and actively using
Yeah.
her for his own like gain. So I feel like if they had a good relationship, that would have muddled that. Like it would have been harder for him to turn against her. Or actually, maybe not. He was kind of a sociopath.
Maybe it would have been harder for her to turn against him. That could have been
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point, and it would have given her like more internal conflict about the whole situation.
Okay, so none of us really cared about the Civil War arc. Is that fair to say?
No, not even a little.
No.
I blocked it out because I thought it was boring. I blocked out the other half because I thought it was bad. I guess we can start with beginnings. That would be the Avatar origin story.
Loved Juan's story.
Oh,
Loved
this is gonna be
him.
great.
You don't like Juan's
You don't like
story?
Wan?
No.
Oh. Now I feel like you're just hating Korra.
Guilty.
I don't know. I loved Avatar Wan's story.
What do you think of Raava and real quick? What do you think about Raava and Vaatu as representations of yin and yang?
I think it was kind of random because they didn't bring it up at all with Aang, but somehow it was a big part of Avatar Wan, and like that easily should have been passed on to the other avatars. Like I understand it was something they came up with later, but I feel like
Oh shit,
Aang
let me
should have
put
had
this.
that too, where he had his own like experience with Raava and the yin and yang within himself. But
Maybe Raava could have given Aang advice.
mm,
Yeah, it's almost like she didn't exist before this series.
exactly, that's what I don't like about it. But overall, I like the
It's a
concept in
huge
general, and I
retcon.
think yeah. But
Oh
I think
good,
it
the
was
stream
cool.
stopped.
Like what?
I thought we got hit with copyright, but the stream is still up.
Woo! But yeah. So I like um that Vaatu and Raava are a thing, and it like shows how the avatars like became intertwined with the spirit world in general. Like that's where the spirit came from. He fused with Avatar Wan, fused with Vaatu to become the first avatar. That makes complete sense to me. That makes sense as to why there's just like one person now who masters all the elements. Like it's not like some person one day was just born and could master all four and then they were like, "Oop, there's going to be one every single time." It's like no, he had to fuse with Raava for that to happen.
Yeah. I agree. I enjoy the concepts of Raava and Vaatu. Um, I'm trying to think, could there have been something else they've done? Because now Vaatu's locked away for what, like 10,000
10,000
years or
years.
so. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now just the first person ever tries to like break him out. Oh, actually, that's a bit weird. That out of everyone, Unalaq is the first one in the 10,000 generations to try to break him out or something.
Especially since there are
Yeah.
portals.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, I think it's like what we were just mentioning that it was like an afterthought in from
Yeah.
the Avatar series. Like it came up in the Korra series. Otherwise, I think they would have explored that in Avatar as well.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't have Aang trying to meditate into the spirit world in the North Pole if everyone knew there was a
Hmm.
fucking portal right behind him. But
That's a
the
good
portals
point.
didn't
Yeah, I
exist
didn't think
then.
about that. Yeah, that's a good point. But I wish they had brought that in Avatar. I think that could have been really interesting and seeing Aang's own journey with Raava and into the spirit world. That would have been cool.
I wouldn't mind a new movie coming up to focus on that.
Yeah, I would like that.
Wait, which one? The one with adult gang?
Yes. I mean, they're not going to, but it'd be nice to see
Yeah.
Aang interacting with Raava and Vaatu. See
Yeah,
how
that
he thinks.
that would be really cool. But I agree they're not going to do that.
I want you guys to hear me out for why I hate everything about beginnings.
Hear me out.
There is a game that takes place after book 2 of the original series called Escape from the Spirit World. It's basically what Aang was up to while he was in a coma. Um, he's supposed to sort of reunite with his avatar spirit because it's been damaged by Azula or whatever. I think I
Mm-hmm.
talked about this last episode. It's where it's like we learned that the other avatars made mistakes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's where we learned where Kyoshi formed the Dai Li. And
Mhm.
besides the fact that this would have been the prime time to introduce Raava if she was a thing, um, the last avatar Aang talks to is Yang Chen, and he asks her, "Why is the avatar born as a mortal human instead of just an all-powerful spirit?" And Yang Chen tells him it's because the avatar needs to learn what it's like to be human and empathize with the people they're supposed to protect. Like the avatar is supposed to know love, happiness, sadness, anger, all those things. So when Korra comes out and says that the avatar is indeed a human fused with a spirit, I kind of take major issue with that. Um, the idea that Raava and Vaatu are supposed to be yin and yang, it doesn't make sense to me because one is unequivoc unequivocally good and one of them is unambiguously evil. And the whole idea of yin and yang is that there's supposed to be like two complementary forces, like equal and opposite, like they depend on each other. You need both of them to have balance. But if you got rid of Vaatu, it's a net positive for the world overall. um when you introduce like God and Satan, like unquestionably good and evil into the spirit world, which is supposed to be like neutral, and then like we're just told to accept a lot of things. Like Wan can't hold more than one element because Raava has to do it for him. It's like how? I don't know. Um she can fuse with them temporarily, but not for long or it'll kill him. But if Wong touches the portal while she's inside him, they become fused forever. It's like how? I don't know. Um we were told in the original
Cosmic
series, yeah, cosmic portal energy,
power.
spiritualisms. In the original series, the Lion Turtle said like in the era before the Avatar, they bent. His exact words are, "Not the elements, but the energy within ourselves." I have no idea what that means, but this would have been a great opportunity to explore that. But instead, people were definitely just bending the elements. Like they got them from the Lion Turtles. It's just like the origin story for the Avatar is not something that we needed, I don't think. But like if you're going to do it, they did it in such a like way that sort of trivializes the original series. It's a bunch of retcons. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. I can see what you mean by that.
Yeah.
And that's where the portals come from. And you know how I feel about those.
Yeah. I mean, I do see your points, and that is a good explanation. But I never had a problem with the original like explanation for the portals, but I can see why they bother you.
To extend an olive branch, like when I first saw this series, I thought it was the coolest shit ever. And I do love the art style of that episode. I love that it looks like an old timey like oil painting.
That was awesome.
The animation is stellar, but it's like what it does to the world building is like almost catastrophic to me.
I see your point, and I see your like like why it upsets you in the with the world building. So I get why. I don't know if I fully agree, but I understand why.
I think Yin and Yang they did perfectly in the original series with the koi fish. It's like if you get
Yeah,
rid of
that was
just
really
one,
good.
the world is fucked. But like according to one story, balance between Raava and Vaatu is just like Raava overpowering Vaatu. It's like that doesn't seem very balanced. And then once they become separated, Vaatu gets all kinds of cool new powers. Like he gets bigger, he gets to corrupt spirits, but for some reason Raava gets smaller and she can't turn spirits back into light. I'm just I'm just lost on the whole concept. I'm like, where is the balance?
Hmm.
I think Juan even says like, "Can't you just kill Vaatu?" And she says, if you do, he'll just regrow over a 10,000 year period." But it's like
Mm-hmm.
that seems good to me. Like, kill Vaatu, wait 10,000 years, and then kill him again.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the original explanation, and you had to. This is like bottom of the iceberg type thing, is that like the avatar is like the spirit of the planet or whatever in the form of a
Mm-hmm.
person. Um, it's the universe sort of channeling itself into a person meant to like maintain the balance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Again, it's an explanation that I don't feel like we need, but I like it a lot more than the Avatar as a guy fusing with the spirit after he separated the evil flying carpet with the good flying carpet.
Flying carpet.
They look like prayer rugs.
Yeah, I don't love their design. They also kind of look like centipedes
Yeah,
to
they're
me.
really their designs are really boring to me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But you said Unalaq is your favorite villain. I'm curious to know why.
Me?
Yeah.
I said Zaheer was
I
my
think
favorite.
one of you said Unalaq is your favorite.
No.
I said I liked Unalaq, but Zaheer is my favorite.
I'll tell you what, I like Unalaq in the first half during the Civil War stuff. But in the second half where he's like, I want to fuse with Vaatu and become a dark avatar and cover the world in darkness. I'm just like, why?
Why?
Something that
Can
we didn't
anyone
mention on this
explain?
podcast. Yes. No, you go.
No, I was asking, can anyone explain what his motivation is for wanting to cover the world in darkness?
Because he's evil.
Oh, right. Fair enough.
Villains are evil because they're evil.
Because he's evil.
Nosferatu.
But we didn't mention how when Raava was separated from Korra and then supposedly killed and then, later reborn, that Korra lost her connections with the previous avatars. This is probably my biggest problem with book 2.
Oh my.
Boo.
Oh
yeah. Boo.
Killing off old characters for shock value. You'll love to see it.
I didn't like that at one bit. But I guess I see why. And I don't know, them what was his name? Unalaq constantly hitting Raava and with each punch kind of felt like the trend where people punch the squishmallows and they're like, yeah. That's
Dude,
all
he
I could think
slaps
about.
the shit out of her with water. I felt bad for the little prayer rug. She looked like a wet paper towel.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh
Poor
no,
gal.
my little tapeworm.
My little centipede.
And then Raava just comes back, even though I thought she would have come back after 10,000 years. It's 10,000 years of darkness. It's over.
It's done. It's finished.
Oh, what did you guys think of the final battle with the Dragon Ball Z chest lasers?
The giant core.
Yeah.
That felt kind of random to me.
I'm just like, how would you even explain it to someone who hasn't seen the show? The final battle between Aang and Ozai, it's very straightforward. It's like Ozai's chasing Aang around for a bit, then he goes back into the Avatar state, and Ozai's running for his life. And then Aang almost kills him, but energy bends him instead. Where it's like, this is Jinora shows up and she does something, and Raava shows up in Dark Avatar's chest, and Korra pulls it out, and she does a thing, and she wins. It works. It just works.
Yeah, I don't know why Jinora had to be a part of that. I get it's because her spirit world connection is so strong, but what did she do to help?
I don't know, Perry. I don't know.
Steven, your thoughts?
I'm trying to remember what Jinora did that...
She just came down in a bubble.
Spirit power. avatars.
She came down with like wings and was glowing like yellow
She did a
and
thing.
just like opened her arms.
You got this, Korra. And then Korra turns giant, and then boom, that's it. I don't know.
Just the
I didn't
idea
like
of a
the
dark
I didn't like the
avatar.
title. The idea of a dark avatar sounds cool. Of like, I don't know, a powerful being that's going around that's just causing destruction instead of trying to bring balance. And that
They
the
could
only
have
person
explored that.
possible to stop him is the avatar.
Mm-hmm.
But just why did he turn giant to begin with?
I don't know.
It
That
sounds
was
fan
weird.
fiction-y to me. A dark avatar.
Mm-hmm. I can see them doing that, but I guess it would be more interesting to me just showing the avatar like just like a regular avatar having an inner conflict about like being evil rather than just having a dark avatar.
Yeah, it's like you have a good avatar and you have an evil avatar. That's why I mean where like it sounds like fan fiction. And
Mm-hmm.
also, why does um 𝗬𝗡𝗦𝗧𝗧𝗕𝗏 Vaatu, I guess, why does he only have water bending and not all four?
Because the lion turtles, I guess.
I guess he didn't get him.
Yeah, he just didn't get him. Lion turtles said no. But it'd be cool if, say, a dark avatar is reborn and their next element is like earth or something, but he could also bend water, so like only earth and water because
Because of
Vaatu bend water, you know?
yeah.
So we have like
Mm-hmm.
4 generations and then eventually they get all 4 elements. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I guess my thing is like
Or what?
Dark Avatar relies on the whole thing of like Raava and Vaatu, which I don't like. But if we accept them, a Dark Avatar is in the cards.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's common knowledge that the Avatar is the fusion between a human and a light spirit, I feel like someone along the line would have tried to free Vaatu, especially since there are portals, and be like, well, if I want to be an Avatar too, because I get to be super powerful, and maybe they don't know about. No, they have to know about 10,000 years of darkness. Like, Vaatu's evil. But, like, an evil person would come along and try and do that.
Unalaq was just crazy enough, I guess.
Haha, Unalaq, you're so crazy.
I like when he was, like, a manipulative, like, puppet master in the Civil War arc.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's just like, no, I want to cover the world in darkness. Yeah.
Can we talk about his horrible children?
Oh.
Like, I don't know. I didn't enjoy them. I know the whole Bolin and I forget her name.
Eska.
What's Eska? Yeah, their whole storyline was kind of funny, but other than
Ugh.
that, bad characters.
They didn't do much for
Yeah.
me. I
I
guess they're
think they were
supposed to
just
be one note.
yeah, and I think they were just put there because they knew Unalaq was gonna die, so they were like, we need someone to take over the Northern Water Tribe.
Yeah. They're like Korra's cousins. I feel like they could have
Mm-hmm.
been more than just we're emotionless. That's our gimmick.
Yeah.
Emotionless emo twins.
Yeah. And Eska when Bolin. Guys, isn't abuse funny when it's a woman doing it to a man?
Yeah, that was weird. And the whole collar thing
Very
and getting
weird.
married. And then
Very
how
weird.
Bolin, yeah, how Bolin wanted to break up with her the whole time, but then looking back on it was suddenly in love with her.
Yeah, like guys, what are we
What?
doing? Like Bolin's like,
Like,
guys, help me. The Eska, she's crazy, and everyone's just like, haha, classic Bolin. How are you gonna get out of
yeah.
this one?
And
They're
then
just laughing
when
at
he does,
him.
yeah. And then when he does get help out of the relationship, they're talking about Eska, and they're like, haha, yeah, that was crazy, right? And he's like, haha, yeah, I definitely had no feelings for her at any point. Like, what? You just complained about her the
Oh
whole
my
time, and now
god,
suddenly you
yeah.
actually had feelings?
Yeah, and like this whole thing they were treating like a joke. It suddenly is like serious. It's like, no, I actually do love you. And they want me to feel things. No, show. It doesn't work that way.
We have
No.
hidden kinks.
They weren't hidden.
Not on screen.
Lorenzi said, make the next Avatar an emo kid. That's my contribution to the fandom. And he's so right. Thank you.
If they make the next Avatar an emo kid, I'd be done.
In the modern day.
Yeah.
He shops at Hot Topic.
He listens to new metal. He's
He
like
has a
an
My
early
Chemical Romance
2000s.
t-shirt.
Yeah, he's an early 2000s emo kid.
Love it. I'm for. He has the band like rubber bracelets all up and down his arms. I love it.
Is there anything else we want to say about book 2?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
I have something.
Oh,
what do you
go
guys
ahead.
think of Aang neglecting his non-airbending children?
I have such strong opinions about this.
Me too.
Like...
Steven?
Ooh. Okay, I highly doubt Aang completely neglected them. It's like maybe he spent more time. He definitely spent more time with Tenzin, but it's not like he didn't seem like the type to just completely forget about the non-airbenders.
Yeah,
but that's what they made it seem.
Yeah, they did make it seem that way, and I hated that storyline because I completely agree. But also, the reason he spent more time with Tenzin is because he had this impossible, like, weight on his shoulders of rebuilding his entire nation and culture, and only had one kid that he could pass it along to and do that, to do all of that. So obviously, he's going to give all of his attention to, like, not all of it, but like a majority of it to Tenzin, so he can rebuild his culture, the people he loved. But he didn't ignore his other kids. He just probably took Tenzin on more trips to like the air temples, and then Kaya and Bumi were so young, they probably saw that as like, oh, dad had favoritism, and it's like, I don't see that at all. I feel like Kitaro also would never let that happen.
That was my point. That was my point too. It's like the thing with the metal bending police. It's like they just keep pushing my suspension of disbelief. It's like Aang paying attention more to Tenzin, I can buy that. Aang being neglectful to his other children, and then it's like Katara letting that slide when she's such a busybody. It's like, nope, you lost me. She wouldn't let that happen. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Never. Yeah, she would never let that happen. And not only that, but like you were just saying, sorry, I just totally lost my train of thought. But like you're just saying, like all of them together and like training together, like, and if Aang was busy and whatnot and was still like building Republic City and doing all these things, like he wouldn't just spend his free time only with Tenzin. Katara would literally never let that happen.
And the defense that always comes up is that people say like, well, these characters aren't perfect. It's more realistic this way. It's like, why have we decided that it's more realistic for people to become bad parents when they get older?
Yeah, like Aang couldn't even kill somebody who was the literal villain of the entire world at that point. He couldn't even bring it upon like himself to kill Fire Lord Ozai. How is he going to neglect out of 3 of his children?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way. People, I feel like, just heard that like one-off tidbit between Kaya, Bumi, and Tenzin, where it was just like a classic sibling fight, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, well, you got all this time with dad, and then everybody took it as, oh, Aang hated his other kids. He didn't spend any time with them, only cared about Tenzin. It's like, no, he probably just went on a couple extra trips with Aang, and the kids were so young they saw it as favoritism.
Yeah.
It makes more sense to me. It's like
Absolutely.
you can give your original characters realistic flaws without like betraying who they are.
Mm-hmm.
This actually hurts Katara's character more if that was true.
Mm-hmm.
Because she
Yeah,
wouldn't do that. She wouldn't allow that.
she just watched him only spend time with Tenzin and focus on Tenzin, and then what, she was left to raise the other two by herself? Absolutely not.
Hell
She would have
no.
whipped his ass into shape so fast.
Absolutely.
Like, she had no problem sticking up to Aang, and I doubt that would have like changed as they got older.
Mm-hmm. It would be like, don't expect any more sugar from me if you're gonna keep ignoring your kids.
Oh yeah.
That would have set Aang straight right away.
He would have been like, yes, dear, I'm so sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my queen.
Yes, honey.
Aang, come back. It's time for you to spend time with all three of your kids.
Yes,
honey.
They do this to Toph too, but
oh
I
my
guess
god,
that
I
leads up
know.
into book 3, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, I know it's almost 5, so, and I know that's just like a tentative time we mentioned ending. Did we want to save the last 2 books for like maybe like a week next week or a week after or something, or do we want to just like try and bang those out right now?
Well, I guess, like, do you guys have anything else to do? You guys got places to be?
I don't have anywhere to be.
Because
Right
I can go like
now,
another hour.
I'm free.
Steven?
I could go on for a bit longer, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, why don't we cover book 3 and then maybe we could save book 4 as like a special episode and bring Steven back again?
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like, of course, if anything comes up, you have to go before the hour. By all means, we can put this off for another time.
Yeah,
but I'm
I
enjoying
think
it so far.
me too. And I think saving book 4 could be interesting because then we could talk about all that and like the intricacies of the ending and like what built up to it. But then from there, go on to like the newer things that are about to be released.
For sure.
I feel like that could be cool. Steven would be down for that.
Yeah, that sounds cool. That sounds good.
Awesome. So, see, book 3?
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah, good one.
Eve, why didn't you like it? I want to know that.
He doesn't like anything in Korra.
So we talked about Zaheer. So Amon claimed to care about equality, but he was a liar. He just had daddy issues. Unalaq claimed to care about spirituality, and maybe he did to some degree, but he also wanted to cover the world in darkness. So this is like 2 examples in a row of like villains claiming to have a point, but they don't. Zaheer is different because he actually follows what he believes through and through. The only problem is his ideology is anarchy, which creates a power vacuum, like, inherently. So he's just very stupid. He's not a liar. He's just an idiot. And I find
He's just dumb.
You find it hilarious that, like, next season, Korra's like, yeah, thanks to you, Kuvira's in power, so thanks for that, asshole. And he's just like, what? How did this happen? I'm just the secondhand embarrassment I get from like watching this grown man talk about like, oh, let's get rid of all the governments because governments are bad. It sounds like a teenager like discovering anarchy for the first time. And I feel like they made that the big ideology this season because they wanted to have more bending fights because it's just inherently destructive, and you can have all these Michael Bay style explosions because you have the combustion bender. You got the water arms girl. I like the Red Lotus characters. I think they're a lot of fun. But then you have this harmonic convergence creating a bunch of airbenders, and I already talked about that. Um,
And they
Zaheer is
gave
one of
Airbender
them.
a one bad guy.
Yeah. And I know the reason they did that is because they wanted to have an evil airbender.
Yeah.
And also they wanted to skip the whole, like, rebuilding the culture over a long, gradual period of time. Yeah, you
Mhm.
can't have Zaheer be an evil airbender without all the bullshit. So I
Yeah.
know why they did it. But it's like, how is he so good at airbending when he just got it?
Mhm. And like when he goes to the air temples to like learn Air Temple Island to learn, and then suddenly like he knows all this airbending history and is like super in touch and in tune with all these things. Like maybe he was into all that before he got locked up, but just to go back to your point of like he does feel like a teenager who just realized anarchy is a thing for the first time and is like being an edgy teen and calling himself a communist and doing all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But maybe he was locked up for what 13 years. Maybe he couldn't get out of that mindset because what the hell else was he doing besides sitting in prison?
That's
You're
true.
saying suggesting he went crazy?
I'm suggesting that he had no other like
He couldn't
people.
know
He had
better?
nobody else. Yeah, because he had nobody else to talk to. He didn't know what was going on in the world. He didn't have any outside perspective. So all he had was everything he already knew. So he was sitting there by himself thinking the same thoughts he already had. And he had, like, if you were in a room with nothing and no, like, outside perspective or outside world to, like, influence you, you would probably never change your opinions on most things. You know what I mean?
Well, I guess that goes back to like the inception of the Red Lotus, because didn't they say that like we're what the White Lotus is truly about, which is like anti-government. But it's like, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the members of the White Lotus is Bumi, who's an actual king. There's Paku, who was right hand man to the chief. There was Iroh, who
Mm-hmm.
was a monarch, and his
Mm-hmm.
goal was to make his son the Fire Lord. Not his son, his nephew.
Mm-hmm.
So, where did the Red Lotus even come from? Uh, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's just like the
Yeah.
dark avatar thing.
yeah, and apparently one of their goals was to create the Dark Avatar. Why?
Mm.
Doesn't that go against the whole? Your whole thing is
I was just
freedom.
gonna say, yeah, your whole thing is that there is no one who's so powerful that they basically help like have the world upon their shoulders, but creating a dark avatar does the exact same thing,
They
just
want to
evil.
kill the Avatar for that reason, and you wanted to go and create a Dark Avatar. What are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about? I feel
I
like
think
Zaheer
Zaheer
says some like
said,
vaguely philosophical things, so he sounds really smart to a lot of like, cause he did to me when I was younger. But like now, I'm just like, you're not really saying anything at all.
Yeah, he has like that vibe of those people who use really big words and talk like in monotone and like
First year
above you
philosophy
kind of.
student.
Yeah, to like make it seem like they're smarter than you, and it's like people who are actually smart don't talk that way.
uh,
They don't make you feel stupid.
for sure. Steven, I think you were saying something.
oh, that I'm trying to remember, but Zaheer mentioned something that Unalaq was a part of their group, but the whole Dark Avatar thing was his own idea. Like that, their goal was
Oh,
I forget. It was like to capture Korra to train her. But like him becoming the Dark Avatar wasn't supposed to
wasn't part
happen.
of the plan. Okay, yeah, I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That is something he said. Yeah,
Mm.
Unalaq was part of the Red Lotus, but becoming a Dark Avatar was not part of the plan. It's just something I find hilarious.
But I think they still planned on freeing Vaatu and all that
Yeah, freeing
because they
Vaatu
did want
was
to
part
free
of
her.
the plan. I think that's what I was
Which
referring to before, which still doesn't make sense,
which
but
I was just gonna say that also doesn't make any sense because why free him? Because then he's just gonna become the next, like we keep saying, Dark Avatar, and it defeats your whole movement.
Yeah, it's like you guys oppose leaders of all kind. So I'm just like, what do you guys think Vaatu is going to be to all of you?
Like, did they think it was gonna be different? Like, Batu was gonna be like, yeah, anarchy, but I'm not in charge. Everybody's in charge.
Yeah, we're totally equals, you know? Vaatu who looks down
I'm the
on
Lord of
humans.
Darkness. Yeah. I'm the Lord of Darkness for the next 10,000 years, but yeah, let's all be, like, let's be a democracy. I don't know.
I lived 10,000 lifetimes before the first of your kind crawled out of the mud. I think that's an actually cool line. I like Vaatu.
Yeah. Yeah, referring to somebody as your kind definitely leads you up to failure in thinking that that person would see you as an equal.
Yeah, they think it's just be like, yeah, guys, it's all cool. Go ahead,
Yeah, you're
have some slushies. Go,
me and
me and the boys.
me and the Red Lotus.
He's taking selfies in like a hot tub. It's like me and the besties.
Wait, it's the you're kind. Me 5 minutes later,
Yeah,
me and the
I
besties.
fucking hate your kind. 5 minutes later, me and the besties.
It's the Red
It's just
Lotus.
5 guys in one giant prayer rug. Yep,
I
10,000
need
years
to
of
see
darkness.
that.
Let's go.
I need to see that drawn right now. I'm
It's
commissioning
just-
Steven to make that.
Steven, I will pay you. Just have
Like money.
the Snapchat caption.
Me and the besties. Another 10,000 years of terror.
Let's go.
We up, boys.
We
Broke up with the Avatar, but she's broken him up.
She down, we up. Or no,
Oh my
that
god.
they kill Korra while she's in the Avatar state, and then it's like that image of the guy doing the peace sign next to the grave.
Oh my god. That's so funny. Wow. I
What were
just
we
really
talking
need to
about?
see. Before we were talking about Vaatu in different meme formats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So I've said my piece about the Red Lotus. Go ahead and talk about why they're great.
Well, it's hard to follow up when you bring up all his flaws.
Well, I imagine there are reasons you thought he was cool. I'm interested to hear them.
Okay. I feel like what I really liked about Zaheer was honestly just his fuck it, we kill mentality. Like when he came with the Earth Queen.
He was
Okay,
very
we
committed
ball.
to
The
that
Earth Queen
idea.
was crazy. But it was really the other members of the Red Lotus that I really liked. Honestly, all of them. The Combustion Lady, Lavabender, Water Arms.
Mm-hmm.
Each of them had like unique designs, but also like unique abilities as well. Like Lavabending is like somewhat seen in the backgrounds, but is never like directly mentioned. Which we have to come back to with like Bolin being able to lava bend randomly.
Oh yes.
But like the combustion bending, we saw it and is mentioned in the books as well. Which is probably like the rarest or the most difficult form of firebending to achieve, which I love. And just the water arms is probably the only waterbender that we see that is able to bend without arms, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
That's
I
pretty
really liked that
badass.
they did that.
Like
their whole group is pretty sick, like
yeah.
bending wise and power wise. Ideology wise, they suck, but
they create
but,
a
like,
lot
physically,
of cool fights. I'll give you guys that. They create a lot of cool fights.
this is the thing. They make really good villains.
Yeah.
They look like villains. They have great powers, like that would, really aid in being villainous, and they did everything right in that regard. But Zaheer's whole thing, I don't know.
I think I would almost like the
But in
book
general,
more if they were more honest about like these are just bad people. But the fact that like
yeah,
they try to make it seem like no, they actually have really smart things to say. I'm like, no, they don't. Don't lie to me,
no.
show. Like,
Yeah, they definitely blow smoke up Zaheer's ass, especially when he's like doing the whole Earth Queen thing where he kills her and is like,
ugh, I don't believe
now
in queens.
you people have no master, like blah blah blah, let anarchy reign throughout
Yeah.
freaking Ba Sing Se, and it's like, dog,
Did you guys like
you
when he
just
said, your freedom is just as essential as air, and without it, there
no.
is no life. There is only, because they can't say death. He says darkness. Ah,
He's poetic.
Boo.
I'll
I
give him that.
laughed. I laughed.
Yeah, I agree with Steven. He's poetic, but in the way that makes you feel like he's trying too hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like just
Like
a
again,
yeah. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Again, like the teenager who's figuring out anarchy and being all like, yes, I'm smarter than everybody else. I listen to Ben Shapiro and blah blah.
Wake up, sheeple.
Exactly. That's the exact mindset. Wake up, sheeple. You all are under a monarchy and you're stupid. Think for yourselves.
Wouldn't it be great in the new Avatar series? There's like an alt right wing like podcaster. It's like it's the truth they don't want you to know.
That would have just been Amon's following. They would have been like benders are unnatural. They just want like the mass society wants you to think that's
Oh,
normal.
what if there are people who like idolize Zaheer, like just those one of those people that just like completely miss the point? You think like
Yeah.
Zaheer was really that smart?
It'd be like it's like they make like a booklet of all his freaking like sayings, like their Bible for Zaheer.
Their house is just quotes from Zaheer.
Oh, that's horrible.
Uh, like
I've seen people say that Zaheer's the best airbender, which is the
no, he's
worst.
not.
Boo.
No, he's not.
Terrible take. Just because he could fly, that's ridiculous.
Fuck
Let go of your
off.
earthly tether. Blah, blah. Like Aang learned that too. Shut the hell up.
He didn't even need. He had a glider for that. He didn't even need to let go of his earthly tether.
Exactly. Airbenders with gliders can fly, and then in season 4, when they have their new uniforms, they can fly. So it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. So you ain't shit. Something I actually like is that Zaheer's fight with
In game
Tenzin.
Marvel.
Uh, Tenzin is schooling Zaheer.
Mollywopped him.
Yeah, because he's been training his whole life. He has the experience, he has the skill. Zaheer might
Mhm.
have a lot of like theoretical knowledge, but that doesn't translate into, years of skill and practice.
Yeah.
It's
Years
only
and years
when
and years.
it's only when the other three members gang up on Tenzin that he starts to lose. I like that a lot.
They had
Yep.
to jump him.
Mhm.
They had to jump
That's
him.
facts though. Cuz not only was he taught by the freaking Avatar and the last airbender of their time, but he
For
literally
sure.
spent his whole life mastering it. Of course, Zaheer, who got it within the past month, isn't going to be better than Tenzin.
And I really like the way that they move. Zaheer is like he's jumping
Mm.
around like a spider. He's crawling, he's punching and kicking the air, whereas Tenzin, he's doing all these like graceful flips and like spins,
Mm-hmm.
and he's actually like taking the time to read his opponent's movements and like take evasive maneuver. It's really good. I
Mm-hmm.
like that fight.
Yeah, it was a good fight.
What do you
Oh.
guys think of? Well, gonna give you guys some information, and we'll see how we feel about lava bending. So, according to Avatar Extras, which is like these little blurbs from the creators from the original series, Apparently, lava bending is a combination of fire and earth, which means only the Avatar can do it.
But I think I like the fact that Bolin can do it because his mom was a firebender and his dad was an earthbender. Like that makes sense to me that their kid would be able to do that. I don't like the idea that only the Avatar would be able to do it because they can master both.
Here's the thing,
I agree with that.
I'm actually okay with a regular earthbender being able to earthbend because waterbenders can shift states between like solid, liquid, and I guess
Gas.
gaseous water. So an earthbender being able to go from earth to like molten earth, that's fine to me. And like
Mm-hmm.
only a couple people can do it. And you know what? I had an issue with Bolin being able to lava bend until you made the point you did, Perry. Him having
Really?
a earthbender and firebender heritage. All right. Yeah, I
Hmm.
can buy that.
Yeah, like that makes sense to me. I would probably be more on your side if he only had earthbender parents or like a non-bender and an earthbender. Like I would be like, okay, where's the fire coming from? But his literal brother's a firebender. His mom was. It makes
True.
sense that he could harness both in a way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because
Like
originally I
that.
was
And
like, they're like, how do we get out of here? Bolin, try lava bending. And then he just does. I'm like, oh, come on.
see, what I liked that they did though was that he tried so hard to metal bend for years and years, and he still couldn't get it. I like that they
I
didn't
like
just
that.
give that to him.
Yeah,
They didn't give it to him.
I was
He
really
he
afraid they were
couldn't
gonna
do
give it
it.
to him.
Me too. He couldn't do it, but he could lava bend. Like he was utilizing a strength that he didn't know he had in the wrong medium. He was trying because he could feel that power within himself, and even Mako would say, "Like I know you can do this. Like I know you have this power." And it's like they just didn't know what it was yet. They thought it was metal bending, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
That's my
As
opinion. I just like Bolin too as a character, so I'm glad he got that.
me too. Bolin's neat.
Love that guy. He's so silly.
As for the combustion lady, um I think I would have liked better if Combustion Man was a one-off, but I'm okay with there being another one. It's fine to
Yeah,
me.
I'm kind of in that same boat. I think it would have been cooler if there was just like one of them, but seeing just like one other also feels like all right. That probably makes sense if Combustion Man just kind of came out of nowhere that there would just be another one, like another lady that can also do the same thing, like almost 100 years later.
As long
This
as we're
is
not
a
handing
bit
them out to everyone.
spoiler. Ooh. It's a bit spoiler for the Yang Chen book, but supposedly there are three combustion benders. Um,
Hmm.
they're like a secret weapon for the Earth Kingdom.
What?
Um,
Explain.
Yeah, explain.
so the combustion benders, I don't know how they I guess they were paid mercenaries basically, but the reason there were three is because one of them was explaining how they the reason they're able to combustion bend is after like years of rigorous torture and training, and that
Oh. How do
most
they get their
people,
little eye though?
Does the tattoo have anything to do with it?
I think it's just a tattoo because in the books they just
Oh.
mention how um they like have to like feel their forehead to like after they combustion bend to like cool it down or something because it like hurts a bit. But they mention this thing that's like most people that try to learn drown. They don't go in specific like what does that mean, but I feel like eventually they will. So it's like it's very rare firebending that has to be like ingrained into like soldiers basically.
Because the way I have understood it is that like they're channeling chi like through their forehead. They're almost like pinpointing an exact location that it comes out of, which is very difficult to do, I imagine. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to know what they mean by like drown. Can you like give yourself brain damage by doing that? I don't know. Maybe you burn your fluids, something.
I'm thinking maybe they have to like do it underwater or some sort of thing.
What's the whole thing about like them being spies for the Earth Kingdom or weapons?
So there's this like Earth nation specifically that basically want to take over to have their own like rule without being governed by the Earth King. And so they have like a secret like weapon that they say could like take over any nation that no one will be able to stop them. But then we eventually learned that the secret weapon is just three combustion benders.
I find that interesting because Zuko was just able to hire one to kill the Avatar. Is that part of
Mm-hmm.
their mission objective?
No, they're just honestly all they want is just money.
Oh, so they're
They
just
don't really
mercenaries
care.
for hire.
Yeah, they don't really care who like wins or anything as long as they're getting paid.
Ah, gotcha.
So like the Earth Kingdom makes them, but then they just are kind of hitmen for anybody who will pay them.
I think is the Earth Kingdom or this Earth nation specifically found them, but they
Mm.
never said where they came from. But
Mm-hmm.
the book ends with them, the three combustion benders, being trapped with or watched over by the air nomads because they're trying to keep combustion bending a secret still.
Mm.
By the air
Interesting.
nomads. That's very interesting. Because I was
Yeah.
positive Combustion Man was Fire Nation, and Poli is definitely Fire Nation. Because like, look at their clothing and her
Mm-hmm.
eyes.
Mm-hmm.
We also talk about Poli's death.
Oof.
Her head explode.
Yeah, like
Very
that was
ballsy.
freaking nuts.
Yeah.
Like liked it, but I'm so shocked they were able to like do that or like allude to that within the like children's show.
I wish they would have shown the explosion.
I like that they show Zaheer's reaction though.
Yeah. They showed Amon's
Just
explosion. You could have shown this one.
yeah, just but I like that they did show him rather than her, just because like seeing like the love of his life explode her own freaking
Oh,
head.
no, I didn't need to see that. Just like a little mushroom cloud, like, or at least hear it. Like a pff.
Very interesting.
But every member of the Red Lotus, except for Zaheer, died. Actually,
Yeah.
in every book, the main villain dies except for book 4.
And book
But I
3.
guess we'll have to talk more about that. Well, yeah, except for Zaheer in book 3.
Because he's like the
But
ringleader.
yeah.
Mm,
What do you guys think of Zhao Fu, the middle clan?
love
Love him.
Zaofu.
Me too.
So good.
It reminds me of like, it really feels like the writers took the time and asked themselves, what is a society run by metal benders? What would that look like? And they went and made it. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
so good. Like the
And I think they portray it. Sorry, go ahead.
like the technology and transportation, like it's all run by metal bending. Like it reminds me
Mm-hmm.
of the mail system in Omashu. It's powered by earth bending. The trains in Ba Sing Se powered by earth bending. The
Mm-hmm.
Northern Water Tribe has like those water canals that you need water bending to, travel through. It's like, yes,
Mm-hmm.
you guys did it. You built it around the bending. It feels like a fantasy
Mm-hmm.
setting. It doesn't feel like an American setting copy pasted into this world.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's the vibe Metal Benders should have had, like how like Sue made them like more peaceful and just like innovative and creative, not like how Toph made them freaking police out of nowhere.
If it was just the metal benders are secluded in this one area and maybe there's like one or two, like a couple out in the world, I'd be way more okay with that than an entire police force full of them.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I like Zalfu. It relies on there
It's just
being
a
way more metal benders, but I like it.
yeah. I mean, they get no complaints from me. How do we feel about Korra like being poisoned and it carrying on into the fourth season and like her PTSD from it?
Oof.
Also, just like her literally almost dying because he almost took her air out of her lungs.
Hmm. Um, PTSD as character development is not a trope that I really like at the best of times. Um,
I agree.
for Korra, I think it's nice to see her, you know, knock down a peg, so to speak, and put her in a position where she has to sort of pick herself back up. It's something I wanted to see as early as book one, remember, when she lost her bending. But
Mm-hmm.
my problem is that they treat her fight with Zaheer like the worst one she's ever been in. When book two had her spirit taken out of her and slapped to death, and she almost got crushed in like a crevice or whatever. I feel like if that didn't give her PTSD, then this shouldn't have, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe both should have. Maybe like this is
Mm-hmm.
my worst fight, like back to back, that sort of thing.
I
And
think. Sorry, go
mm-hmm.
ahead.
I would have liked to see them give more attention to Korra getting physically better too, because I feel like book two we sort of skip her physical therapy and she's just like back on her feet again. It's nice that we
Mm-hmm.
still have the PTSD to deal with, but I think the physical part should have. Wait, why is that funny?
I like that we still have the PTSD to deal
It's
with.
great. She has PTSD, but oh yeah, I feel like if book four was all about that, I think could have been great. Um, spoilers. I do like book four the most out of the four, but we can talk about
Really?
that another time.
Um. Ooh. Well, I was going to say that with book four, that starts with her not really there as physically as she used to be because she still has some poison in her. I don't know if we should like mention that now or talk about it now. Um, but the poison in her system, uh, it brought back all the PTSD that or everything that she's gone through. Really, like she was hallucinating when she first was injected with it. She saw Amon, Vaatu, Unalaq. I feel like Zaheer was just like the tipping point. Like she's been through so much, and it's like, can she keep going?
I think my issue with that
Mm-hmm.
is like they almost conflate the PTSD with the poison when it should have just been one or the other. So maybe like the
Mm-hmm.
poison represents the physical aspect of her downfall, let's call it. And then her PTSD, like that's all mental. That's a mental block that she has to get over. But
Mm-hmm.
that book sort of treats her like she gets some of the poison out of her body, but she's not on top of her game just yet. But then she bends the rest of it out of her body, and then she's just back, like physically and mentally. But
Oh yeah,
it's like,
that.
yeah, there was more than just the poison, though. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see your point of like it should have been separated. I think I agree with that. Like, and they should have focused on like Cora's physical therapy, and then like maybe that could have been the PTSD. Like while she's going through that, she's thinking about what caused her to be in that situation where she has to relearn to walk and relearn basics. But the like poison still being inside of her to like trigger these things felt weird to me.
It's very confusing to watch because she has a fight with Kuvira, and she seems to be doing well, and then she activates the Avatar state, and then she hallucinates, uh, I guess Dark Korra, and
Mm-hmm.
she starts to lose. But I don't know if that's because of the poison or if that's because of her mental block. Like, you get what I mean? Like, they
It
conflate the
was,
Yeah.
two.
yeah. They said it was mental block because they were like, we got all the poison out, and it's like, but then that just undermines the whole poison arc in general. Like that, she just straight up has PTSD, and the poison had nothing to do with it. It just was still in her body, and that was probably what was making her weak, but not making her hallucinate dark core all the time.
Wait, was this before or after she got all the poison out?
After,
Because I
because
remember
she
Toph
was
is
with
like, you didn't
Toph.
get all of it out. I can still feel
Yeah, she
some.
was with Yeah, she was with Toph, and then she left, and then when she was with Jinora and all them, she got
Yeah,
it
you're
out
right.
again.
You're right. She bent the rest of it
Because
out.
Toph was like, you have to do this yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And Sue helped too, I think, right?
Sue got most of it out, and then
Mm-hmm.
Toph was like, she didn't get all of it. So Korra's like, you do it, and she
Mm-hmm.
says, no, you have to do it yourself, and then she does.
Mm-hmm. And then she fights with Kuvira. So I think it just like undermined the whole poison thing.
Yeah, because she still has her mental tisms, and then their solution is like, if you have PTSD, your best solution is to go to the person who fucked you up in the first place. And it's just another opportunity for Zaheer to talk all this poetic and talk about how, like, you're blaming him. She tells Korra, like, you're blaming me when this is all on you, and that sort of thing. And I'm just like, why, guys? Why can't. Ugh.
Mm.
You guys feel differently about the meditation scene with Zaheer?
No, I didn't like that.
He's
I
the
like
one
it
to
Now,
guide her into the
there,
spirit world.
but I didn't. No, I didn't like that.
like you said, like, oh, to get over your PTSD, you need to face what you went through. That is not the case for everybody. I mean, for Korra, it kind of makes sense because she is a bit of like a bruiser, so she would want to like confront things head on and like fight them. But that doesn't always work. That if anything, that could have triggered her more.
Especially not with the guy who is like the face of her trauma. It's like, come on, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should have been Jinora or Tenzin or hell, even Kaya. Like, literally anyone. Literally anyone.
This would have been a good time for her to like try to reconnect with her past lives, even though I know they're not going through that. I don't know, going into the spirit world and seeing how other avatars dealt with their pain and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the previous avatars are just
They're gone for
gone
good, which I
is like,
absolutely hate. Hello?
yes.
Oh,
Hello.
I thought I lost you guys.
I thought I lost you guys. I was about to text and be like,
Yeah, we're kind of getting into book 4 right now, but I wanted to talk
yeah.
about since this relates to book 3 and 4, what do you guys think of, because we talked about how Aang was as a parent. So what about Toph?
Mm,
I see it more with her of like I like the freedom that she gave them and like how that was a whole story thing. Like they were like, oh, my mom never had freedom, so she gave us too much. I like that,
I can
but
see
I don't
that.
like. I can see that, but I don't like the whole oh they have different dads and they know nothing about them and their dads weren't present and she like didn't really care if like Sue messed up but like was so harsh on Lin. Like that doesn't feel accurate to me.
yeah.
Steven?
I agree. The the different dads thing I've sort of wished wasn't like a thing. Um
Yeah.
I wish
especially
Toph
because
wasn't
I
a
sort
now
of
huge
want
slut.
that storyline to be deleted, but
especially
Wishing
because that opens up like a lot of people's like shape of like, oh, the dad is secretly Sokka or something. If they
I hate that theory.
introduce like the actual fathers, it would be better, I guess. But they're just deadbeat dads, I guess. I
well, they
don't know.
named one. It was a guy named Kanto,
Hanto.
which is a name that has like no relevance to anyone in the
Mm-hmm.
audience,
Yeah, that was Sue's
but
dad,
fine.
right?
I don't
Yeah.
remember. I think so.
I think it was Sue's because I think Opal asked and she was like, "Oh yeah, your mom's like dad was this guy named Kanto. He was nice, but it
Nice
just didn't
guy.
work out between us."
It's like,
And it's like
cool, thanks.
it didn't work out and now he wants nothing to do with his kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. It felt weird and like with Toph just like sleeping around having kids with these two random
Yeah,
guys.
like, what are we doing, guys? Is this Toph?
Doesn't feel like it. I feel like she wouldn't give these men the time of day.
Here's the thing. I can see Toph sort of overcorrecting from the kind of parents she had and giving her kids too much freedom. That I can buy.
I liked that.
Yeah.
To the point, but to the point that she's neglecting her children when one of them is a criminal, and Toph is like, she's a supremely good judge of character. And she can see through all kinds of like lies and insincerities. That I don't buy. Toph being a police chief when she was all about breaking rules, that's like an sort of for me, because I can see Toph being in a position where her job is to like enforce justice
And
and
boss people around.
yes, and or abuse people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine, I guess. But then she covers up for her daughter's crime because of how badly it would reflect on her. She says, "I'm a police chief. I can't have a daughter in jail." That I don't buy.
Like,
Toph
yeah,
would
no.
not. Toph does not care what other people think of her.
She would be like, "Oh, you fucked up. Time for you to go to jail."
Yeah, like Toph is a fucking drill sergeant. Like when she's teaching Aang, there's no way she's going to cover up for her own daughter. She'd be like, "Are you serious?" She's the parent. Like if your kid's cursing in school, she'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, and like the whole thing of she sent her away because of that, and it's like but then later left the police force because she was like felt guilty about lying, and it's like that just shows right then and there that she wouldn't have sent her away in the first place.
Yeah, and then not only did she leave the police force, but she stayed out of contact with both of her daughters and let them like fester this resentment they had for each other and all this 30 years of like pent up trauma. There is no way Toph would allow that. No,
Yeah,
Well,
there's
no.
no way.
they mentioned how Toph visited the Metal Clan a few times, right? Opal was
Oh,
talking about.
you might be right.
Because she said she hadn't seen Opal since she was like really like a little girl,
A
right?
baby, yeah. But what made her
So
lose contact with Lin?
I think Lin and her were just pissed at each other, and Lin never forgave her for letting Sue get away with it.
See, I don't think Toph would let that go for that long. 30 years it was.
I don't either. I don't really love what they did with Toph's character. When they showed her for real, like interacting with Korra, I was like, this feels like Toph.
I
But
was
in the
like, yeah.
flashbacks, yeah. But in the flashbacks, it felt nothing like her.
It's just kind of weird to see because you have Toph and then she becomes a different person, and then by the time she meets Korra, she's Toph again.
Yeah. A lot of inconsistencies there.
um, I don't know, guys. Anything else about book 3? We might be able to finish this.
Um, I don't think I have anything else to say that like comes to mind.
Um,
yeah,
oh, there's a character we haven't talked about, or I guess a pairing. What do you guys think of Korrasami?
Love. I figured
love.
we'd talk about that more if we're gonna talk about book 4 later.
Oh yeah, I guess so, because that's when it becomes
That's
canon.
when it comes. Uh huh. But good to know we're all in agreement. Love.
Hmm.
I feel like the whole love square, I guess, from the very beginning shouldn't have happened. With Bolin,
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Hated that. Like, Mako and Korra's relationship in general just sucked, even without the whole Bolin loved her, and then Mako was also involved with Asami. It was like a really bad storyline.
I think the foundation for Korrasami is disgusting.
Yeah, it was something that felt when I first saw it, it felt like something they threw in at the very end just because. Um, but I guess there are like hints here and there that you could see their relationship growing or like somewhat festering.
Well, I think the creators mentioned that it wasn't like their plan originally, but as the story progressed, they started seeing it more between the two of them.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
so then by book 4, they were like they were playing to hold on, Steven, your
So
mic
you're
is
getting a
like
lot of
loud.
driving sounds.
Yikes. Okay, wait.
I was like losing my train of thought.
Alright, you guys didn't hear that. Y'all on Discord did, but not chat.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you muted yourself. I was like, "Ooh, we're having a lot of
Is this better?
difficulties." Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was like, yeah, sorry. I was like losing my train of thought because the driving was so loud in my headphones.
Mm-hmm.
Um but anyway, yeah, they said that as the story developed, they started seeing it more, and then they said they wanted it to happen by season 4, but they weren't sure what they could get away with. So that's why, and like I actually read the Tumblr post that one of the creators made about it, and in that, like he mentions, he was like, if you don't see Korra and Asami's like relationship building, he's like, go rewatch and look harder. He's like, because you missed a big portions, and it's like it's true, because Korra, when she was gone for 3 years, only ever wrote to Asami. She only ever felt comfortable talking to her. When she came back, she pretty much like, you know, like only confide in her, and was like, I was so excited to see you, like I miss you so much. And then Asami compliments her hair and she blushes, like it's a whole thing. And if you really
They
look
hug a
for those
lot.
small details, if you look for those small details, like he said, you will find them.
I have
They
a
said they wanted them to kiss at the end of it, but they weren't allowed to, so they alluded to it as much as they could.
hot take about Korrasami.
Let's hear it.
I think it works if Korra and Asami met each other in book 3, but when you consider everything that's happened in book 1, I don't think it's a good foundation for a relationship.
I see your concern, especially with like the beef with them, the three of them and Mako, um, because they both dated him, and they like or Asami was like pretty jealous of Korra and didn't like her for that reason. But I think it becomes more like realistic when Korra gets hurt, and then suddenly all that's gone. Like the drama is gone the second Korra is out of commission and is gone for 3 years. And then the second she sees her again, I feel like she's like, none of that matters. All that matters is that she's here and she's better.
I think that's kind of what I mean. Like, you kind of have to forget about all that to get rid of,
Mm-hmm.
like, because I feel like realistically there should be a lot of resentment, especially from Asami's end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that too. But again, I think the only way it could have happened in a healthy way is the fact that Korra got hurt and was gone for so long, and she was like, doesn't matter anymore. Mako's just some guy.
Poor Mako.
uh, I like Mako, but also I don't. Something
He's
about him.
he doesn't.
He was
I don't feel any like strong feelings towards him. He's just kind of there.
there. He was trying too hard. They tried too hard to make him the new Zuko, which I didn't love.
You will never be Zuko.
Yeah, and but what I liked is that they introduced General Iroh, and like how he had Dante Bosco's voice. Like that was
That
nice,
was
and
cute.
that felt like that was cute. But that didn't feel like, oh, this is supposed to be the new Zuko. like that didn't feel like that, even though he had Zuko's original voice. What felt like, oh, they're trying to make the new Zuko, to me was freaking Mako being this like
This
angry and
brooding asshole. As if that's all
yeah,
Zuko was.
fire bender. I don't know.
I feel like Mako works best as just a friend of the group.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it.
Yeah, I see that. Then his whole like cop era where he was like not listening to Bolin, and like he was like a shitty brother sometimes, whereas Bolin just like loved him and tried his best.
Unconditionally, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have some issues with Mako, but like you said, not enough to care. He was just kind of some guy.
What do you guys think of Kuvira?
So are we going into book 4?
I guess so. I mean, I don't really have much to say that I haven't already, except Kuvira.
Mm-hmm.
She's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't love. She kind of annoys me.
Oh, well, present the argument.
Well, she makes the most sense villain wise, like besides the Red Lotus, in my opinion, because she just wants to reunite the Earth Kingdom after it fell into disarray after the Earth Queen was murdered. Like that makes sense. Like she just wants to unite them and become the strongest like nation, and basically just wants to rule the Earth like the Fire Nation did 100 years ago. Um, but she doesn't see it that way. Like she genuinely thinks what she's doing is good, and she's rebuilding her community and her country. And I feel like that disconnect is what makes me not like her. Like if you're going to be evil and take over all these places, at least be honest about it. Be like, "Hey, I freaking suck. I want to rule the whole world." Let's be real, she was not going to stop after the Earth Kingdom. She was going to keep going.
Steven?
I think I agree with that. That her her uniting the Earth Kingdom seems noble on paper. Um, but the way she was going about it was all like shady, and wasn't one of her goals was to eventually get the Republic City, since it
Republic
was on
City.
Earth Kingdom territory.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
I agree that she probably wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah.
I think
But
Kuvira is the best of the four, but this isn't saying a whole lot because I don't think she's written all that well, because what she's doing for the Earth Kingdom is good. Like we see her like delivering like food packages and like giving supplies to all these Earth Kingdom cities and whatnot. But then you have a bunch of characters saying like, oh, she's throwing her dissenters into prison camps, like she's getting too mad with power. So I like the idea of a villain that you can't really just march right in and kill, because what they're doing is the only thing that's working right now. Because if you get rid of Kuvira, we're back to square one. Like the Earth Kingdom is in shambles. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if Kuvira is doing evil things, it's not enough to tell us. Like you have to show us. Like there's that scene where she's intimidating those bandits, and she's threatening to hurt them and stuff like that. But it's like they're bandits. They're not innocent. Like they're the reason we're in this mess. So I don't really have a problem with that. I feel like the show waits too long to give us a reason for why Kuvira is evil, and that's because like she basically just turns into Ozai at the end. It's like, I'm taking over the world. Fuck it. She's metal bending Ozai.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I just don't like that it was basically a repeat of the Fire Nation. Like, it was just like she wasn't gonna stop. And yeah, she does get, like, it does get explained later on why she's like that. And she does just, like, cause, like, all that destruction to those bandits. But Then she attacks the entirety of Republic City. The entirety.
And a giant robot.
And a giant robot attacks the world leaders. That's when you start to lose me. I'm like, okay, so she clearly did just want power.
Yeah, it's like...
And her whole freaking backstory was because she was a freaking orphan. Shut the hell up. You got adopted.
You got adopted by Su Yin. It was like the best parent
and
ever.
You became... and you became her right-hand man. Like, quite literally. And I'm supposed to feel sorry for this bitch? I don't.
I'm done. Yeah, it's just another like, wasted potential because we were so close. This show really wants to have villains who actually have a point, and we got so close to having one, and then you just made her in like a generic tyrant who wants to take over the world because she's evil.
Because she didn't have a mommy and daddy when in reality she did.
When she did, she had the best mommy. And then
she was like, my parents didn't want me. Boo hoo, girl. Boo freaking hoo. That's the exact same plot of Beat the Robinsons.
I have an issue with like, Su Yin in this season too, because everyone's like, okay, Su Yin, if Kuvira is such a problem, why don't you unite the Earth Kingdom your way? Because she has the means. She has the Metal Clan. And she already has a problem with monarchs and governments in general. So this is a chance to reshape the Earth Kingdom her way. But instead she says something like, oh, I can't just march in with an army. But it's like, you can do that without marching in with an army. It's like, I think this is partly your fault. You know what I mean?
I think that's the way she saw it, though. Like, I think she didn't see it as, like how you're seeing it, where like she has the means and whatever, like you don't have to go in their army. I think she was thinking, to beat Kuvira, I need to start my own army, and then there's no coming back from that. There's no disbanding that army. Now suddenly I'm just as bad as her.
So I think Kuvira was the one in the first place who brought up the idea, and Su Yin said no, and she said, fine, I'll do it myself. It's like, that was Su Yin's chance to just do what Kuvira's doing, but better, generally speaking.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you meant like after, when we're like, take down Kuvira yourself. Yes, I see what you're saying now. But I also think that's like, I don't know. She probably only saw it as a way to like, as being a dictator. Like she didn't see it as being a leader like she is in Zaofu. She probably just saw it as like trying to, you know, be the next queen, and she didn't want that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention?
Well, I don't know if I have much more for Kuvira. Talked about Korrasami, talked about all the villains, talked about bending.
Talked about Aang as a father and his kids, and Katara and Sokka and Suki and Daily and Kyoshi warriors. We got a lot.
Went over everything I have in my notes. I think this is all I have to say about The Legend of Korra.
I was gonna say, I think we covered a lot. Steven, anything you would like to add?
Okay. If you had to choose your favorite avatar, which one?
Ooh. Is this out of all of them, or is this out of between Aang and Korra?
Out of all the known avatars that has been shown.
Aang.
Yeah, probably Aang. I like Roku a lot as well.
Yeah, Roku is pretty tight. I don't love Kyoshi, sorry.
Kyoshi probably my favorite.
Oh, my bad.
I guess I'll say I liked Kyoshi until we found out more about her.
Yeah.
Same. The only reason I love Kyoshi is solely because of the books.
That makes sense.
Her, like, since they like fleshed out her story, and I feel like there's so much they still could have done. because by the end of it, she was probably like in her 30s or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't
So,
read those, so I probably should read those before I give more of an opinion on her. But
but I feel like
Mm.
she's my favorite, and I hate that the fandom shows her as ah. Don't worry, my answer to every villain is just to kill them.
Yeah,
Well,
I hate her reputation in the
like
fandom.
that was her like last resort, where she would do everything in her power to not kill. But if there was literally no other way, she was like, it is what it is. She hates to do it, but she's not gonna let someone destroy the world.
yeah.
Yeah, I liked how she was like sort of ruthless in that regard, that like she wouldn't let that get in the way of protecting the world. But of course the fandom picked that up and they were just like, "Oh, she's just a psychopath. She just kills. Kill, kill, murder, murder, rah."
Yeah. I think that was like why I didn't love her, is because of that interpretation and like the fan like ideas of her. So it makes more sense like the more we talk about it right now.
I guess
But
I'll hold off till I
also
read the books.
that's how I feel, yeah. And then I feel like I'll have a better idea of how I feel about her. But I trust Steven's judgment on the books.
Me too.
But Lorenzi mentioned that Uncle Iroh would have been a banger as an avatar. Talk about a spiritual balance and
Yeah,
peace.
man.
That's my man. Hell yeah.
He would have, but it
He
wasn't
would
in
have
the
been an
cards, I guess.
yeah, he would have been a crazy powerful one too.
The thing about Iroh is we only see the Iroh that we have after his son died. So we don't know how he
Mm.
was in his younger days. I mean, he literally took over, well, almost took over Ba Sing Se.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was the only other person to bring down the wall.
Almost did. I don't think he did yet, right?
They say he got in, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Or maybe they just broke down the wall, and I don't think anybody broke down the wall yet. I think maybe they were invading, but I think they were like really close to breaking the wall. But he retreated after he found out that his son had died.
Because I remember in the drill episode, they're talking about it with that general, and he says, that's why it's called Ba Sing Se. It's the impenetrable city. Nobody got in. And then Toph is like, what about the Dragon of the West? He got in. But I don't know if that
Mm.
means he broke down the wall or if he was just able to infiltrate.
I think that meant infiltrate because I feel like him breaking down the whole wall as a whole would have been a way bigger plot point.
You're right. That's a historic event. You can't cover that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they bring that up a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, anything else?
I don't know, guys. I think we did a good
I think
job
that's
here.
it.
Yeah, I think we did a killer job. We got a lot done.
Hopefully, you guys can understand why I like Korra less than Last Airbender.
I see your
There are
reasonings,
things to
and
like
I get.
about it. I'll still rewatch it.
Mhm. I see your reasoning, and I think also you probably dislike it more than I would because I didn't see Korra until COVID. I had never watched an episode of it. I watched Avatar growing up,
Oh,
but I
really?
didn't see a single thing of Korra until I was an adult. So I feel like that altered my opinion of it. As if I had watched it maybe when I was a kid, I would probably feel more like you would.
It was it was kind of the same effect with like Steven Universe for me. I watched it when I was younger as it was coming out and I was thought it was the greatest
Mm-hmm.
thing ever. And then I watched it as I got older and I was like, "Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
not great."
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we did a killer job. Great explanations, great arguments. I see your side, Eve, and I hope you see me and Steven's side. So how much we love her.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I think um I think I'm cool with ending it here if you guys are.
Before we get out of here, Steven, do you want to tell everyone what you're up to and where people can find you?
Mhm.
Sure. I'm not at the moment. I'm not really doing much other than trying to just shape my portfolio, just creating new pieces. I haven't really been doing much on social media either. I
Don't you have an art
I might
account or
have to get back.
something?
I I have an art account. I have posted since like May of last year.
Yeah, but people can
But
still get exposed to your work.
yes,
Yeah.
my art account is 𝐬𝐿𝐴. I'll spell it out. 𝐬𝐴RBUCIA. And eventually I'll get back to posting soon. But
Mhm.
at the moment, I'm just trying to create pieces. I do have an art station under the same name, which I've been uploading whatever I make. But yeah.
Cool. And we could always put that in the description
Yeah,
too.
links to both of those will be in the description. But thank you so much
Beautiful.
for joining us today, Steven.
Yeah, thank you. It was a
Thank,
pleasure having you.
it was a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
You are now
We'd
our
love to have
first
you.
honorary hater. Tell your friends.
Yeah. And we would love to have you again in the future.
Of course.
That I will definitely join. I
Hell
love
yeah.
to.
Hell yeah. It was a great discussion. We had some great opinions. We had some great hating. Classic episode of
Mm-hmm.
Haters Without a Cause.
Just another day. Thanks a
Mm-hmm.
lot, Lorenzi. You're a legend for staying with us the entire time in the chat and contributing.
Yeah, I don't know if you know my friend Ryan Eve, but he and I have been friends since we were like 8 years old. So he's a real one.
I
He's
don't
my day
know
one.
him, but I love him.
Yeah, he came to thesis night and saw everything. I think you guys might have met in
Oh,
passing.
sweet.
Yeah, so he rocks. Thanks so much for tuning in the whole time and commenting. We really appreciate it. Love you, Lorenzi. Um, yeah, and again, we post every other Sunday. So our next episode will be, I look at my calendar, the 19th
The
of
19th.
February. Mm-hmm. So we'll see you guys then, and thank you for listening. I'm Pretty. This is Jaded.
Mm-hmm.
And see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.